Good morning. We'll call the meeting to order. We respectfully acknowledge that the Township of Algonquin Highlands is located on Treaty 20 Michi-Saugig territory and in the traditional territory of the Michi-Saugig and Chippewa Nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations. We also acknowledge a historical shared presence of other Indigenous nations throughout the area, and we recognize these original inhabitants as the stewards of its lands and waters since time immemorial. Could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda for today? Deputy Mayor Dayu, Councillor Short-Reed.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dayu, seconded by Councillor Short-Reed, be it resolved that the August 13th, 2026 agenda be approved as circulated.
All in favor? That's carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof today? Hearing none. I did want to make a couple of comments this morning. This is a bit of a bittersweet day for us all. As everyone is aware, our CAO, Angie Bird, has given us her retirement letter. And as it turns out, this is her last day with us at a council meeting. Not her last day with the township, but it is the last day that she'll oversee our actions here. Angie's been with us for 34 years and, she's worked her way through the system from the bottom to the very top. And she's been an excellent mentor for us, given us lots of fabulous advice and certainly been a wonderful leader for the team here. And you will be sorely missed. There is absolutely no doubt about it. So I'd like to thank you for everything that you've done for us for all of this time. And it has been a joy working with you. I'm not going to say any more because it's going to become too emotional for us in the room. And we are making some arrangements to have a celebration for Angie within the next couple of weeks once we've finalized the details. Enough said. Once again, thank you. Could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes? Councillor Short-Reed, Councillor Richards.
Moved by Councillor Short-Reed, seconded by Councillor Richards, be it resolved the July 16th, 2026 meeting minutes be approved as circulated.
All in favor? That's carried. We have no public meetings today. We do have a presentation this morning by Pahapal with the audit for 2025. And our treasurer has some comments to make in advance.
No comments, Mayor Danielson. I'll just be here to answer any questions and to be here for Marianne as well.
Can we bring her in? I don't see her on either screen. Marianne, would you turn on your audio and visual, please? There she is. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. I don't know if I actually had a little bit of technical difficulties there, not when I did the test, but I don't know if Carl's been able to actually, because I know he was having a few difficulties as well. So I'm going to present the auditor's report and the financial statements of the Township of Algonquin Highlands. If we look at the actual auditor's report itself, it is a clean audit for the corporation of the Township of Algonquin Highlands. There is one additional paragraph that wouldn't have been in last year's, and that's with respect to the comparative financial statements as at December 31st, 2024. They have been restated, and it is disclosed in note 2 as to the particulars, but it is in regards to the capital assets, and I will get into that when I review the notes with council. So if we turn to the statement of financial position, pretty much everything is actually very comparable to prior year. I will say that in accounts receivable, the 1,969,000 includes 1,045,000 of taxes receivable compared to the prior year of 972,000. The other notable item on the statement of financial position is the municipal debt. It's 4.4 million. So the corporation actually took out a 4.4 million debt. And the particulars you can find on note 6. It is 4.32% per annum, and it's due December 2045. The other item of note is your capital assets. On Schedule 1, you noticed it actually has gone up by $4 million, which is actually a positive thing in terms of it's obviously significantly higher than what was the actual amortization. And I just want to turn to that Schedule 1. There were $6,166,000 of additions during the course of this past year. Included, the biggest one obviously is your public works garage of approximately $4 million. There was $487,000 in land and land improvements, which actually includes the EV charging station of $194,000 and the tree clearing of $183,000 primarily. The machinery and equipment had additions of $383,000, which included primarily the 25 cat loader, which is $268,000. There were 3 trucks purchased in the vehicles during the course of the year of approximately $178,000. And your roads and bridges, there were 5 roads that actually were capitalized the actual paving and unpaving of the roads. For $210,000 was North Shore, and the balance was the other 4 roads. So going back to the consolidated statement of operations and accumulated surplus, your property taxes was $7.4 million this year as compared to $7 million last year. That compares to a budget of $7.3 million. So everything looks exactly pretty much the same as what was on budget, and obviously an increase from prior year. The one thing to note in other income, investment income this year was $243,000 versus the budget of $545,000, and last year was $513,000. So it has come down a little bit. With respect to your total expenses, it was $12.5 million versus $13 million budgeted. Environmental services was about $243,000 was lower than what was budgeted, and that has to do primarily with recycling was $103,000 lower, and rec and culture was down $162,000. So overall, the surplus for the year, and this is on a PSAB basis, of course, not on your internal budgeting basis, was $60,073. If I could turn to the notes, the significant accounting policies, there were no changes during the course of this year. And then note 2, as I mentioned in our audited report, had a restatement. Primarily was due to the net book value of tangible capital assets that were actually doubled up. There were some duplications, and also the depreciation was not recorded in primarily in 2023, but went to prior years as well, with the township's amortization or depreciation policy. So that resulted in $153,877 change thereon. Outside of that, I have no further comments. If anyone has any questions.
We've all had an opportunity to review the statements. Are there any questions from members of council? Anything that you'd like to add, Madam Treasurer?
Not at this time. Thank you, Mayor Danielson.
Could we hear the resolution?
Be it resolved, council receives a presentation from Marianne Poland of Pahapill and Associates regarding the 2025 draft financial statements, and that council accepts the 2025 consolidated financial statements as presented, and council approves the amendments to the 2024 comparative financial information to correct identified prior period errors relating to tangible capital assets, including adjustments for duplicate asset values, accumulated amortization expense, and the consistent application of the tangible capital assets policy. And further, council receives the audit findings and representation letters as amended for 2025 and authorizes the mayor and treasurer to sign the said letters.
Could I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Shortreed and Councillor Richards. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much for your work on our behalf and for your presentation today. Next on the agenda are delegations, and we're pleased to welcome Andy Gordon to present on behalf of ULinks their information on their ongoing water quality program. I'm sorry, we also have Frank as well to take part in the presentation.
Madam Mayor, councillors, thank you very much for receiving our delegation today. I'm Andy Gordon. I'm Director of ULinks, and
Morning. My name is Frank Faguli. I'm the Program Manager for ULinks.
so Frank and I are visiting all of the lower tier municipalities prior to the election, not to advocate for any particular candidate. We accept whoever the people send us. But we do recognize that there's going to be probably some substantial turnover at the local tier level, and that's going to affect the composition of county council. And ULinks has spent 4+ years developing what we think is a very good relationship with the county. So we're here to ensure that maybe there's a slight bit of corporate memory going forward in terms of what ULinks has done for you in the past, is doing for you now, and can potentially do for you in the future. And on the topic of municipal elections, thank you to all of you who are putting your name in, and all of you who have decided to move on. I knew nothing about municipal politics until I returned home here, and it's just amazed me how important it is to solve problems in the local township. So thank you all for your dedication. So I'm going to say a few words about ULinks, a very few words, and then Frank is going to describe some county level projects that do have impact on Algonquin Highlands. So ULinks has been in the county for 35+ years, 25 as ULinks. We work in all sectors: cultural, business, economic, social, health, and environment. About 80% of our work currently is in environment, although the mix changes on an annual basis. We're essentially research brokers. So if you are a corporate entity or a business or a lake association or a government agency, and your business is conducted within the boundaries of Haliburton County, and you have a persistent problem that you can't solve because of finances or staffing situations, you can come to us and we will help you formulate that problem. And then we will reach out to our academic partners, principally Trent University, but we work with quite a few. And we'll try to find the brightest, most hardworking fourth-year students who are enrolled in capstone courses. So those are courses that take place in the fourth year and allows a student basically to build upon all that they've learned in their undergraduate program. They'll come to the county with their professors in tow, and 95% of the time will solve your problem for free. In the process, they get a really good dose of experiential education. So it's a win-win situation. It doesn't cost you anything. We do ask our hosts if they have the capacity to give a small donation. I think the largest one we ever received was from Dysart. We did a waste management project for them, and so the students from Fleming developed a snitch line and some signage, and illegal dumping on the road that they were studying went down by 72%. And Dysart was just delighted and dropped us a check for $1,000. So it's usually $50 or $100 we get from most. So that was a real shot in the arm. So on this slide here, You can see just a few of the projects that have taken place in Algonquin Highlands. And if you just read the titles, you'll see the capacity that we have to direct students in different sectors. All of these projects, and there's over 750 of them that have been conducted in the last 25 years involving more than 3,000 students. All of them are available on our research database. So just go to ulinks.ca. You'll find the research database button, and it's searchable. So you can search for any topic you want, and it'll come up with a listing of projects. One personal project that's or a project that's of personal interest to me that's not listed on here is the history of Highway 35 and the construction camps that went into its building. So if you drive from Dwight to south of Minden, you'll see old Highway 35 going around the rock knobs and around the shores of lakes. And one of my task to do in second retirement is to actually walk some of those sections, because there's a lot of history associated with them. And for me personally, it's a really cool project, because in January 1955, my mother drove from Dorset down to visit her sister in Toronto. And when I came out a little bit early, the doctor asked her if she'd been dancing recently. And she said, no, but I just drove down Highway 35. And he had a cottage up here. And that's why I have a Toronto birth certificate and not a Huntsville one. So,
Great
so-
story.
You've heard of the international student situation, where international students coming into Canada have been limited. This has negatively impacted basically all of the universities in Canada, and especially colleges. Fleming College ripped up 28 of its programs and a contract that it had with us. Trent University, which has been our longtime partner, reduced the budgets of its academic units by 12%. We're associated with Trent, but we're not Trent employees. So they thought it would be fine to reduce our budget by 30%. So for a small organization like us, it's pretty devastating. So we've had to pivot, and we've pivoted very quickly and developed an arm of ULinks that does fee-for-service work for lake associations and municipalities. And Frank can talk a little bit about that in his section. So we'd like you to think of ULinks not so much as or in addition to a charitable, not for profit. We can't make money, but we can't lose money either. But also think of us as a Halliburton County centric research center that has a huge amount of capacity. So if there's a problem that you need solving, even if we don't have the capacity within ULinks, we're very well connected, and we can reach out and bring those solutions to bear upon Algonquin Highlands and the other townships of the county. Thanks, Frank.
Next slide, please. So one area where we've become particularly well known is in environmental monitoring through our Woodlands and Waterways EcoWatch Auxiliary Program, or WOO for short. We recognize that Halliburton County faces a unique issue. Unlike many other parts of Ontario, we don't have a conservation authority or a watershed council that coordinates watershed scale monitoring. And so communities have had to take a lot more of an active and engaging role in understanding and protecting the lakes that we have here. So our WOO program helps bring municipalities, lake associations, volunteers, academics, and researchers together in one coordinated county-wide monitoring network. And our aquatic monitoring, which I'll talk about today, has been built around two complementary programs. So the first is through our Testing the Waters program, where we've been collecting for physical and chemical parameters of water quality health. This may include water clarity, dissolved oxygen, temperature, conductivity, pH, and other water chemistry parameters. And this helps us understand what the state of a lake is at the time of sampling. And then coupled with that, we are also sampling for benthic macroinvertebrates. And these are little aquatic organisms, insects, and other inhabitants of lakes, streams, etc., that are sitting in the bottoms of lakes for extended timelines, months, sometimes years. And so that acts as a long-term indicator of water quality health when we look at their abundance and population numbers. And together, these two programs provide much more data than either could provide independently on their own. One is telling us what's happening at the time of sampling, and one's telling us what's been happening over time. Next slide, please. And so this map is a good, back one. Yeah. This map's a good illustration of why this work has to be approached at a county scale. Lakes, rivers, and wetlands, they're all connected systems, and water simply does not recognize municipal boundaries. And so before focusing on Algonquin Highlands specifically, I wanted to recognize and personally thank the County of Haliburton for its support in the Testing the Waters program. County funding has been instrumental in allowing this program to grow into what it is, a coordinated long-term monitoring network, and rather than just a collection of isolated lake testings. And so that county level support is especially important because it lets us use consistent methods across municipalities, build comparable data sets over time. 2026 will be achieving a 5-year on many of the lakes that we've been sampling. And it also helps support lake associations that are already contributing significant volunteer time and resources of their own. Last I checked, we're about 2,000 hours of volunteer input since the genesis of that program. So that's really incredible. So on this second map, we've highlighted the Algonquin Highlands portion of this monitoring network. Pins that are in green are ones that are exclusively benthic sampling. Pins in yellow are exclusively chemical physical sampling. Pins in red are a participant in both. And so we have a pretty great participation scale across Haliburton County. We're at 27 lake associations now, 42 lakes, and over 65 monitoring locations, which is just substantial. And that concentration really matters. Algonquin Highlands contains major connected lake and river systems. So the monitoring we're doing here doesn't only serve to understand individual lakes, but to understand broader watershed conditions across the county. And people often ask us why we're testing the same locations with the same parameters at the same time of year. And it's a pretty simple answer. 1 year of data helps tell, a snapshot. 10 years of data helps tell a story. So if we imagine, you're checking your financial accounts once every 5 years, I definitely don't recommend doing that. But you don't get a good understanding of what is going on beyond that current moment. You don't see if your conditions are improving or if they're heading towards trouble. And so long-term monitoring helps equip us with identifying lake stressors before they become too difficult and in some cases too expensive to manage. And by collecting data continuously using the same methods, we're able to overcome some of those challenges. Next slide, please. So the final project I'd like to highlight is one that extends to a similar philosophy as environmental monitoring. ULinks has been partnering with County of Haliburton on a community safety well-being data portal and community vital signs initiative. And so right now, if we look at where information is spread across for housing, demographics, emergency response, health, et cetera, in some cases it's siloed between mutually exclusive organizations, and the communication is not as efficient and as coordinated as it could be. And so this project is serving to provide some additional resource and resolution for that. And for Algonquin Highlands, this will mean being better positioned to identify local trends and areas of greatest need, having information readily available to support grant applications with compiled local evidence, inform municipal planning and policy decisions, and overall strengthen collaboration with community partners, as well as being able to track community well-being over time. And so much like our environmental work, the goal is not simply just to collect information, it's to give it to people that are going to be making informed decisions and having reliable evidence before problems become too large to manage. And ultimately, that's the goal that ULinks has had in our role in Haliburton County all these years. Next slide. So whether it's protecting lakes through environmental monitoring or helping discover the history of some of our major highways up here, ULinks has always been here and will be here to help provide informed decision making, knowledge capital, and connecting community objectives with the required expertise they need to be solved. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and thank you to you both. I have to say that particularly the work that you've partnered with on the health of our lakes is absolutely crucial to Haliburton County. As I say, the health of the lakes means everything to us. It's our economy and everything to the lifestyle of the people who live here. So we really appreciate that, and the work that you've done across the board, with so many groups and organizations, has been an incredible amount of support and assistance to us all. So, on behalf of council, I really appreciate the work that you've done. I'd look to council for any questions or comments on the presentation. Deputy Mayor Dayu.
No question really, just to echo my thanks, especially for your work and your students' work with our Environment and Stewardship Committee, which has been really well received this year. We look forward to what we might be able to do with them and with you in the future. And I did have a question, you know, as you were showing the maps in particular. I was wondering, have you ever done an analysis on population density of Algonquin Highlands or the county, but instead of on land mass, on water? You know, how many people do we have per lake, and how many people do we have per, you know, per square kilometer of lake? And the reason I ask is our identity is so water focused here, and sometimes we sort of default to a certain kind of identity as communities, our political identity as a, you know, as the jurisdiction of Algonquin Highlands, or our land mass identity. You know, we've got 4 people for every kilometer, or every kilometer in Haliburton County. But have you ever kind of played with the numbers on water?
Not as of yet, but that's a very timely question. As Frank mentioned, we're up over 5 years in terms of our benthic data and coming up on 5 on our water quality data. We have just engaged a person from Trent University to help us start putting together county level demographics, basically, and how they're related to water quality issues. And so factors such as number of cottages per 100 meters of shoreline will definitely be used to help us tease out why this particular lake or set of lakes is not doing quite as well as this set over here. It gets very complicated because, you know, half of the lakes are connected to the Trent Severn system, and so there's water drawdown that has its own environmental and ecological impacts, and that's one of the reasons that we sample. We're one of the very few organizations that actually sample in the wintertime across Canada, which makes Frank's life a little bit difficult in the middle of February. But no deaths so far, so that's really good. So yes, our goal over the next 5 years is to continue sampling, but we're not going to sample for forever. We'd like to amalgamate some of this data and start to come up with county level recommendations where there's some negative hotspots, where things are looking really good, and where some of the municipal bylaws that address things such as septic and shoreline could be beefed up or are doing adequate and things like that. So we're well progressed on that thought. Thank you, Councillor.
The only thing I may think to add is we've been doing select lake capacity study updates with lake associations across the county. It doesn't target specifically what you're asking, but it is a contributing factor that would help us springboard to that type of analysis.
Any other questions or comments? Could I then have a mover and a seconder to receive the presentation? Councillor Shortreed, Deputy Mayor Dayu.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, second by Deputy Mayor Dayu. Be it resolved, Council receives a delegation from ULink Center for Community-Based Research regarding an update on ULink's activities and ongoing water quality testing program for information.
All in favor? That's carried. Once again, thanks so much for all the work that you do on our behalf. Next on the agenda is a delegation by the County of Haliburton in the form of Elizabeth Purcell and Kim Bishop to talk about a proposal for changes to the consent application process. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning. Thank you, Your Worship, and good morning, Council. I'm Elizabeth Purcell, Director of Planning at the County, and with me today is Kim Bishop, the County Senior Planner. Thank you for having us today. We have been working on some proposed changes to the existing consent process, and as the change involves elements of the overall process that occur at the township level, we're here today seeking your endorsement for those changes. For the benefit of council and the public, consent applications are regulated under the Planning Act and refer to any application that seeks to create a new lot, adjust property boundaries, establish easements, or register a lease in excess of 21 years. The county is the approval authority for any application that divides land. This includes consents and plans of subdivision and condominium. Typically, somewhere between 40 and 60 applications in total are processed each year at the county. While subdivision and condominium applications are reviewed by County Council, consent applications are reviewed by the Land Division Committee, which consists of a member representing each of the 5 municipalities. If an application is approved, the approval will be subject to conditions as recommended by the accompanying staff report or as recommended by committee. And as is common practice across the province, most application types ask for written pre-consultation comments from the local municipality, but I'll get a little bit more into that later. Next slide. With regard to pre-consultation common practice, typically this step provides an opportunity for applicants to discuss their proposals with staff prior to formal submission. It's a bit of a two-way street where the applicant can seek feedback from staff and obtain a list of what will be required to submit as a complete application package. And staff can keep track of what applications may be coming down the pipe in the future. An overall point of this step is to prevent surprises at the time of formal submission if staff have concerns with the proposal and make the processing of a formal application as efficient as possible, as everything required to do so will have been submitted from the start. A unique aspect to the current process here in the county is that a local municipal council endorsement is required to accompany a complete application submission to the county. However, the complication with this is twofold. Pre-consultations are not typically endorsements or pre-approval of development applications by staff and can lead to mixed messaging or confusion later on in the process. And secondly, as of a couple years ago, pre-consultations in any form were made legislatively not mandatory by the province. And that goes for almost every application type under the Planning Act. So getting into the details of the process, as you can see, currently it is complicated. Particularly at the start of the process, it's a bit of a choose your own adventure for applicants. The process can start at either the local municipality or at the county, and oftentimes applicants are shuffled back and forth between the two as they make their way through the process. I won't dwell on this slide. It's a bit overwhelming and a little hard to read, but it is in the report package if you want to look at it closer. As we've personally been working in this existing process for a few years now, we've received both feedback from the public as well as observed potential areas of improvement ourselves, which are summarized on this slide. Namely, there has been feedback on the customer service side of things, where applicants have voiced concerns about the requirement of undergoing 2 separate processes for one proposal, how the local municipal processes can differ depending on the municipality, and that timelines are unknown or inconsistent as they're not prescribed by legislation. From a staff resourcing perspective, there's a considerable duplication of effort. Both local and county staff field inquiries from the public with respect to consent applications. They both engage with applicants in a pre-consultation step where comments and submission material lists are given. And both local and county staff write fulsome, detailed staff reports for the same proposal. While there's been a considerable amount of effort to streamline the early contact points, wherein many local planning staff across the county are directing inquiries to the county as a first point of contact, that effort has been more so people-based rather than process-based and could revert back if there are changes to staffing in the future. Other notable points include at times, local councils are being asked to give endorsement to applications that are not complete if, say, technical studies are missing. And there can be complications and delays at the time of a formal application submission to the county if a proposal has been proceeding through the process without county involvement and submission requirements that have been flagged by the county haven't been previously identified by local staff. So for visual aid, we've simplified the existing process into 5 major steps, which you can see on this slide. First, a proponent contacts the county or local municipality with a proposal, and the respective staff will provide comments to the proponent. Then the proponent submits a formal application package to the local municipality for review and endorsement. Sometimes the county is circulated, sometimes not. After that, the proponent then submits a formal application to the county, which contains the local endorsement. In accordance with the Planning Act, the local municipality is circulated the public notice and application package at this time. And typically local staff review the package to ensure that what was submitted to the county aligns with the proposal that was considered at the local endorsement process stage. The application is then brought to the Land Division Committee for consideration, and the staff recommendation factors in any comments received through the statutory circulation process, including if local staff provide anything supplementary at that time. If conditional consent is granted, the proponent satisfies the conditions of consent approval within 2 years. So this slide shows the same simplified process, but incorporating the changes staff are proposing. The first step, staff are recommending that a one-window approach is implemented where applicants come to the county with any inquiries or preliminary proposals. This would eliminate that back and forth shuffling that's being experienced now and would establish consistency across all 4 local municipalities. County staff would facilitate the circulation of any proposals to local municipal staff, coordinate compiling comments, and provide them to the proponent. So there's still that local municipal involvement in the early stages, just coordinated through the county. Just click one. Now you will see here's where the big change occurs. If you just saw that animation, I thought that was pretty nifty. Steps 2 and 3 from the existing process switch places. In the proposed process, the next step after obtaining comments from staff would be that a formal application is submitted to the county. Once received, county staff would submit the package to the respective municipality for review and endorsement. Then the same process proceeds after that. Only once local municipal endorsement is received would the application proceed to the Land Division Committee. So to summarize the proposed change, the same amount of input is sought from the local municipality. It would just live within the legislative process rather than occurring beforehand. On the previous slide, we talked about a one-window approach. So here's some additional details about that in the context of the pre-consultation process. It's proposed that applicants would initially submit to the county where the proposal would be screened against provincial, county, and local policies. Proposals would then be sent to the local municipal planner for review and comment. And at that time, the local planner would likely comment on complete application requirements, outline potential municipal conditions for approval, and provide feedback on the conformity of the proposal with local policies and bylaws. Once that information is obtained by county staff, joint comments would then be sent to the applicant. Then, once a complete application is received by the county, it would be sent to the local municipality. At this time, the application would be reviewed for potential endorsement. The proposed process has ample time allotted to accommodate local council calendars to allow for the application to be considered by council while also respecting the legislative review timelines of the Planning Act. I should note that one of the goals of these process adjustments includes reducing the burden put on local planning staff, as they currently carry a significant amount of effort for these applications. As part of the changes, we're proposing that county staff would be the ones that provide a brief report for local council's consideration rather than that coming from the local planning staff. That would free up capacity for local staff to focus on local applications or initiatives rather than county. Some of the benefits we've identified with these process changes include improved customer service. There would be one point of contact, one set of comments, one formal application submission. Improved information for council when making a decision. Local endorsement at complete application provides council the full picture of a proposal. It reduces red tape. There's fewer submissions, meetings, and revisions that are required with a streamlined approach. This reduces the variability between local pre-consultation processes as well. It reduces staff time on proposals at the local level. It provides opportunity for local staff to focus on local applications, just as I mentioned. And local municipalities can choose an approach that works for them. Council can delegate some of the functions of the endorsement process to staff for some applications, all applications, or you can choose to not delegate at all, which I'll get into in a minute. So on that note, as an added optional further streamlining effort, council could consider delegating endorsement to staff for all or some of the consent application types, yes, as related to endorsement. Perhaps in the context of the township, it might not be the most appropriate time given staffing of the planning function is in a bit of a transition, but could be considered in the future. Particularly, there are some application types that are very technical in nature, such as consent cancellations or title validations, which don't have a public notice requirement to them or an appeal perspective, and could potentially be considered as a low-risk option in the future. So with that, we respectfully request that council endorse the proposed updates to the consent process. And for clarity, council would be endorsing the following high-level process: staff level review and commenting at the pre-consultation stage, circulation of a complete application once received by the county, review of the complete package by the township, and consideration of endorsement at this step, whether by council or as delegated to staff. Then formal comments sent to the county, and then the application brought to the Land Division Committee for consideration. So at this time, County Council has endorsed the process changes, which is why we're here today. As a next step, should the local councils all give endorsement, implementation would include updating local and county planning web pages and documentation to direct proposals to the county, creating a standard format commenting template for county and local staff use, meeting with local planners to assign reviews and set timelines for the process moving forward, and providing updates to the 5 councils on where things are at and where they're going to go from there. So with that, be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your presentation. As you know, I've been a strong supporter of streamlining processes. And what I like about, what you're proposing is that there be a single application, less time involved for the applicant, less costs associated with the process. I do know that there have been some comments, sort of around this proposal about, well, local ward councillors have, a little more experience about specific areas of pieces of land. And should have an opportunity to comment. But to me, that's offset by the fact that there's a representative from each municipality on the land division, and the way that you're outlining the process, how it would flow out, offers the opportunity for councils to voice any concerns that they might have. So with that, I would look to members of council for any comments, questions, or concerns about what's being proposed. Any questions? Deputy Mayor Dayu?
Thanks again. I'm grateful to receive this presentation 2 times because it helps with the absorption, because it is a very complicated thing. And on the back of what Mayor Danielson has just said, we did have that conversation about where in the process local councillors can have a bit of an eye on what's going on. Perhaps they know a little bit more about that parcel of land than someone elsewhere in the county. So is there anything that this council, all the lower tier councils, have to be aware of or to request or to think about in order to be sure that we do get that chance to tick the box? Is there anything else that we can be talking about here to make sure we don't lose sight of our opportunity to engage in that?
Through your worship, I think as standard, just baked into the Planning Act, having the local municipality be circulated no matter what, gives that given opportunity every single time for that local involvement. It is entirely up to you to decide who at the local municipality is involved in the process. So if council would like to be involved still, that endorsement function can rest with you, and it can be every single application that comes through for Algonquin Highlands. And as I know I talked a lot in that presentation, but one of the benefits to this process change is that you will have the full picture every time you see an application. So sometimes we've experienced with the process as it exists now is that sometimes you might be reviewing an application that doesn't have the environmental study associated with it. So maybe you're considering this possibly is okay if that study comes back that it's okay. But you would have that in front of you to know definitively whether it is or not. So I think this gives councils, the local councils in general, more assurance that what they're looking at is what we will consider at the county level and what determines truly if an application is appropriate or not.
Thank you.
We are in a bit of a strange transition period with Kim working on our behalf here in Algonquin Highlands, but also representing the county in situations like this. So given that, I would just ask, because our CIO has had considerable planning experience, do you have any concerns with what's being proposed?
Thank you, Mayor. None whatsoever. I know certainly being part of and lead of the planning group in the service delivery review, this was one of the things that was looked into in depth and was certainly anticipated at some point. So yes, certainly support it.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Could I then have a mover and a seconder then to approve moving forward with what's being proposed? Councillor Richards and Deputy Mayor Dayu.
Moved by Councillor Richards, seconded by Deputy Mayor Dayu. Be resolved, Council receives a delegation from Elizabeth Purcell, Director of Planning, County of Haliburton, regarding proposed changes to the consent process, and Council endorses the outlined new approach to the consent application process.
All in favor? That's carried. Thanks so much for your work on this. The last delegation that we have is by Gallagher Benefit Services with respect to a pay equity review that's been completed on our behalf. So I would like to welcome Damian Maggio, assuming that's coming through on Zoom. Good morning, sir.
Morning, Mayor. Morning, Council. Thank you for having me. Am I coming through okay?
Yes, you are.
Great. Thanks. So the review that we were engaged, Gallagher was retained to support the township in undertaking a council compensation review and analysis. So if you just move to the next slide, I can kind of like give a bit of a background on it and just kind of get it right into it. We just have a few slides to go through. This review is somewhat different from a traditional compensation review that we would typically conduct for salaried or unionized employees. In this case, we were asked to examine the township's existing remuneration framework for members of council, including base compensation, per diems, benefits, and any other forms of remuneration available to councillors. When we approach council remuneration review, there are several key considerations that guide our work. First, we want to ensure that the level of compensation is respectful of the roles and responsibilities associated with serving on council. The role of a councillor today looks very different than the historical traditional perception of attending an occasional meeting or community event. The council roles have evolved significantly and are increasingly more business focused in nature. Councillors are expected to review extensive and often complex materials, agendas that can be hundreds of pages long, covering matters such as developmental applications, policy decisions, significant financial considerations. This requires substantial time commitment outside of formal meetings, including preparation of research and due diligence to ensure informed and responsible decision-making. Our review recognizes and respects those expectations and the overall time commitment required of members of council. Second, we aim to ensure that council compensation is fair and reasonable compared with other municipalities of a similar size and complexity. It's not about competing for talent in the same way that an organization might for staff and senior leadership roles. Rather, the objective is to ensure that remuneration appropriately reflects the responsibilities of the role and aligns with practices observed in comparable municipalities. And finally, fiscal responsibility is a critical component of the review. We recognize that municipalities are publicly funded and accountable to taxpayers. As a result, any observations or recommendations must be grounded in a fiscally responsible framework. So the goal is not to recommend excessive or unsustainable levels of compensation, but rather to strike a balance between fairness and respect for the role and responsible stewardship of public resources. So the report that we've provided outlines our review process, including the comparator municipalities that I'll get into in the next slide, as well as our key observations for council's consideration. So moving on to the external market and what we used and to gather the data. The external market assessment, this list here reflects the municipalities that were included in the comparator group. We engaged each comparator municipality and ensure that they're similar to the township in terms of size, governance structure, complexity of responsibilities. These municipalities participated by providing detailed information through a survey tool we've developed. The survey captured a broad range of remuneration practices, including base remuneration, per diems, expense reimbursements and allowances, as well as benefits and pension provisions. Once the responses were received, the data was standardized and analyzed to provide a consistent basis for comparison. This allowed us to understand not just about absolute figures, but also how the township's practices align or differ from prevailing approaches across the province. Moving into the data itself and from a base remuneration practice, across the comparator group, what we saw was base pay is generally provided as a single amount intended to compensate for council and committee attendance, meeting preparation, and responsiveness to constituency matters. The table here shows how the township, the base remuneration compares to the comparators by role. And what the results have shown is that the township is positioned well and higher than the market median, so the 50th percentile of the market for both the deputy mayor and the councillor remuneration councillors. And the mayor-based remuneration is slightly lower by about 1.3% of comparators. So in compensation speaker terms, like for gaps to market, what we typically consider a role to be at market is if it falls within a plus or minus 5% of that target market position. So one thing to note is that the township currently does not have an established pay policy or target policy for council, and this does align to the 9 comparators that we reached out to. But I will say that, however, in other areas of Ontario, there is a trending that's shifting to have a pay policy for council. And sometimes that policy is shifting to have a market median, to have a policy that's higher than the market median. And that's just mainly in an effort to be competitive with peer municipalities. But I just kind of wanted just to highlight that as some additional context that we've obtained. Looking at other components of the review from an administrative perspective, the township aligns well with market practice in a couple areas. Most comparator municipalities adjust council remuneration annually, and it's often aligned to the cost of living or adjustments provided to staff. This, the township does follow this similar approach. And also, the township is aligned with the comparators with regards to not providing per diems to council members itself. When we looked at insured benefits, going a little deeper there, the township is well aligned with the market again. Most comparators do provide health and dental coverage, but do not provide life insurance. And similarly, the majority of comparator municipalities do not enroll members of council in OMERS or other like retirement plans or vehicles. And this is the township is aligned with this as well. So in this area of analysis, overall there were no significant LRs identified, and the township does align well. So what we've brought for consideration and based on the market findings, results and guiding principles that I talked about earlier. For consideration, we've brought forward to adopt a pay policy of a P50 to align with the non-union staff group. Increase the merit-based remuneration to the market P50 rate of $40,049 effective the next term of council. Continue as you currently do to adjust the base remuneration annually, aligned to the approved cost of living increase that's already within your practices. And then also conduct external market review once per council term to assess comparability of base remuneration and other practices. With that, I'd just like to thank you for your time. I know it was kind of went through a little quick, but I really appreciate the time to talk through this report with you.
Thank you so much for your presentation and the information. I guess I would look to council for any questions or concerns that they might have. I guess for me, there are two questions that might be considered. Does council think that there needs to be a specific policy with respect to remuneration for members of council or not? Or we're satisfied with the existing process that's in place? The other thing to me is whether council wants to consider, as is done in say, the county or in other municipalities, some form of consideration for compensation for attendance at committee meetings. So, you know, I'm satisfied with the recommendations that have been presented to us, but would look to council for thoughts on those questions or any other comments you might have. Hearing none, I guess that we would look to a mover and a seconder then to receive the presentation and the move forward with the recommendations that have been made. Councillor Richards, seconded by Councillor Shortreed.
Moved by Councillor Richards, seconded by, Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved, council received a delegation from Damien Maggio, Senior Consultant, Gallagher Benefit Services, regarding the council compensation pay and equity for information.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. I guess at this time we would look for a motion to move into closed session. Councillor Shortreed, Councillor Richards.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, seconded by Councillor Richards. Be it resolved, council adjourns its open session at 10 a.m. in order to proceed into closed session to discuss the following. 1, personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees, and labor relations and employee negotiations in accordance with section 239(2)(b) and D of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended regarding employee pay equity review. And 2, personal matters about identifiable individual and labor relations in accordance with section 239(2)(b) and D of the Municipal Act as amended regarding CAO retirement.
All in favor? That's carried. The clock is already off.
Is it?
Yeah.
No, it is.
It's fast. and
It's going too fast. See, I'm too.
It's that new battery and that surge of energy. I do too. Given how many clocks we've had problems with.
Better. Yeah.
Oh, because Julie's not in the room. Didn't see her leave. Come on, we're waiting for you. Just for the public's information, we have adjourned our closed session and are welcoming you back to the open session. However, we are going to take a 15-minute break, so we will resume our meeting at 10 to 11. Welcome back to the open session. The next portion of the agenda is the consent agenda. Were there any items that members of council wish to pull from the consent agenda or discuss? Okay, hearing none, could I have a mover and a seconder then to approve the consent agenda? Councillor Richards and Councillor Shortreed.
Moved by Councillor Richards, second by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved, items listed on the consent agenda are considered routine and enacted in one motion. Each matter of business contained in the consent agenda is reported separately in the minutes of the meeting. And council approves the August 13th, 2026 consent agenda and hereby adopts the staff reports and all recommendations contained therein and directs staff to proceed with all the necessary administrative actions.
All in favor? That's carried. Next up is a report on tax write-offs. I don't think you're the tax write-off guy.
No, no, that was on consent.
Oh, my apologies. Mr. Moore, welcome back.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Good morning, Mr. Moore. So you have your monthly activity reports for June and July.
I do.
Anything that you would like to highlight for us?
Just the basics. We're on track for last year. Basically the same numbers. We received over 58,000 in permit fees and building construction value in excess of 7 million. In that we had 6 dwellings. So
Any questions for Mr. Moore? Could I then have a mover and a seconder to receive the building and bylaw reports? Councillor Shortreed, Deputy Mayor Dayu.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, second by Deputy Mayor Dayu. Be it resolved, council receives building bylaw report BLDG 1126 regarding June and July monthly activities for information.
All in favor? That's carried.
perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up are Parks, Recreation and Trails. Good morning, Mr. Card.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
So your first report is about the Dorset Tower storage shed replacement.
Correct, yes. So thank you through you, Mayor. As Council will recall at budget time, I identified the need for the replacement of the shed this year. Last year, we did some electrical work there to support this project, the existing shed being end of life. The budget was based on a prefabricated style shed that would replace very similar like to like in the exact same location. We did get some bids and we have landed on a model. Council did express their desire to review what was proposed there before we put it in, so bringing it back for that purpose. I've included some photos of the model that we would be proposing. However, the one in the photos this is just a display model, so it's not the color scheme. We would be making sure that the color scheme matches as closely as possible to the gift shop that's there, which would be very similar to the color scheme of the existing building. The use of this is for merchandise for the Tower gift shop, as well as the water treatment system that supports the public water fill station next door. And this is within our $15,000 budget. The estimated cost coming in at $12,264. I think this building would certainly meet our needs. The way we're able to configure it and the way they're able to set up shelving on the inside as part of that costing will be a better use of space than what we have existing. And looking for council's support to move forward with it.
Thank you, sir. The only question that I would have about the shed that's being proposed, I mean, it's a nice looking building. I just wondered a little bit about security, given, you know, what's being stored in the building. Any concerns there? I'm just thinking about, you know, the windows.
Yes, and that's a great question. Thank you, Mayor. We're not going to include the windows being part of the display model for that very purpose. And then we're going to put a hard door that can be locked.
Any other questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Dayu?
Yeah, I had the same question, so that's reassuring. And as you speak, I look out over at our, at our Stanhope Museum and actually some little false windows eventually with a nice little painting on them, or, there's lots of things that you could do to have fun with it. And while preserving the security. So, over time, it's an interesting options. But I really like the building and glad about the color scheme. It's a great choice.
Any other questions or comments? Could I have a mover and a seconder then to proceed with the acquisition of the building? Councillor Short-Reed and Richards.
Moved by Councillor Short-Reed, second by Councillor Richards. Be it resolved, Council receives Park Recreation and Trails Report PRT 1626 regarding Dorset Tower storage shed replacement for information, and Council directs staff to proceed with the order and installation of the proposed shed.
All in favor? Councillor Richards, Deputy Mayor Dayu. Oh,
Call for the vote.
pardon me?
Did you call for the vote?
All in favor? Sorry. I was getting a little ahead of myself on the agenda here. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the Crozier Lake questionnaire. And I just kudos to the work done on the questionnaire. I think this is a really good process that you put in place on trying to determine what will work best for those who use the landing. So
Great,
you.
thank you. Through you, Mayor. So in alignment with our asset management plan, the Crozier Lake Landing is the next in the list for rehabilitation. It's currently listed as poor. The intent would be that this assists with the discovery process and information gathering process, which then allows us to go into design recommendations afterwards based on that information to council, and then do the design work into next year with the construction happening next year. So an overview of what is existing there is that it's a very simple site, meaning we don't have a dock there, we don't have a retaining wall there. There is only a boat launch, and there's a small turnaround parking area that's across Livingston Lake Road from the boat launch that could handle maybe 2 vehicles. The challenge with the site and the opportunity we're looking at for improvements there is that the boat launch is angled off of Livingston Lake Road down to the water, and it's also in between 2 bends. So there's sight lines considerations where there's a situation where users have to back across the Livingston Lake Road in between 2 very low visibility bends. So what I want to review is the possibility of moving the whole thing to the one side of the road. And of course, I'd have to look at costing for that possibility so that people can pull in on that side of the road, turn around and get down the boat launch. And if it's possible, just to help highlight that a little bit, in my report under the assessment framework, if you have it in front of you, at the back of that framework on page 8, 9, and 10 are photographs of the site. And then following that is the actual site plan. So what you're seeing on page 8 is the boat launch adjacent to the road, and then some visuals of where it is relative to the bends on each side. The challenges and constraints we have there, that it's going to be a mixture of shore road allowance, county road allowance, and crown land. So we don't have a survey on file, which isn't uncommon as we get into these projects and part of what we do each time one comes up. But so we would have to get a land survey and then look at development options and opportunities there. There is a rock outcrop that would have to be considered. So it may be something along the lines of moving the boat launch to facilitate a turnaround on that side of the road. The unknowns there, what I'm looking to find out through the questionnaire is just the extent of use. There's only one water access only property on the lake. There's 30 properties total. The lake is at capacity, but I want to find out from folks how often they're using it, whether or not they're parking across the road, whether or not there's parking issues or there's congestion issues with boat traffic there, and get a sense of how much of an issue the sight lines and the location of it is from the users as well. And also across the road, there's access to what appears to be a Crown Land ATV trail. So wondering if there's any other uses there that have to be considered. From there, and with council's blessing today, we'll release the questionnaire. We'll use our online platform. We'll send it to all of the residents as we normally do and property owners on the lake, and then bring that information back to council with further recommendations.
Councillor Richards.
I'm just wondering, to your knowledge, is there any other boat launch on this lake at all that could be used?
And through you, Mayor, we're not aware of another boat launch on the lake, and that's one of the questions in the questionnaire to determine that. But up front, there's nothing that we're aware of now.
Other questions or comments? Deputy Mayor, to you.
Just a general observation, I'll be curious to know if the respondents have any observations on public use of the parking space, just by virtue of the fact that it's right on Livingston Lake Road. Most of our other landings are off the main roads just enough that the opportunists going past wouldn't necessarily stop. And this one is right there. You know, you can't miss it. And sometimes, you know, I mean, Julie, I don't know if you have the same observation. Sometimes that little parking
Councillor
space
Richards.
is empty, and other times, you know, it's packed. There are more vehicles in there than you could otherwise expect to fit in there. And I wonder, who are they? Because as you've pointed out, there is only one water access property on the lake. So if the respondents have a little bit of insight into that, I think that would be really interesting information for the township.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Richards.
Yeah, I think that actually lends to, access to lakes for all, not just those who are property owners on the lake. But when you think about day trippers to just come in and go fishing on the lake and leave, I would see them needing parking to do so, and trailers to launch and unlaunch. And this is a really small lake. And so I think that when you get the results of the feedback from the community, that's something that needs to be considered, because I can see the costs of this being quite high.
Other comments or questions? Hearing none, then could I have a mover and a seconder to proceed with the questionnaire and any other design work that needs to be considered? Councillor Shortreed, Deputy Mayor Dayu.
By Councillor Shortreed, second by Deputy Mayor Dayu. Be it resolved, council receives Park Rec and Trails Report, PRT 2226, regarding Crozier Lake Landing Assessment and Community Questionnaire for information, and council directs staff to proceed with the community questionnaire as outlined in the report.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you very much and have a good day.
We have no environmental business on the agenda for today, so we will move into Public Works.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Good morning, Mr. Thorne. The first item on up for your discussion is the correspondence from Camp Bucko and a request for a flyover.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor. Yes, this request did come in. It's kind of one of the first requests we've had for a flyover of this nature. It is planned that a Hercules would fly over the area, as from my understanding from the conversation I had with the gentleman, and essentially that the municipality doesn't have the authority to grant any kind of permission for this kind of flyover. So it's really out of our hands in that sense. We can offer up a letter of support. Yes, thank you. We can offer up a letter of support if you so choose to, but we can't give them permission to do it.
Well, I would look to comments from council, but I do know that I did get a request from Jamie Schmale about this. He would like to see us support the initiative. I think it's a great initiative and, you know, something that people would enjoy seeing. I mean, you're not going to stop air traffic from flying over us at any time anyway, so it would be my recommendation that we proceed with a support letter. Councillor Shortley,
100% a support letter.
any other comments or questions? Deputy Mayor Dayu?
Up in Ward 3, once a year, around this time, there's a military exercise, and maybe that's other wards too, but they come down really, really low over the lakes, and it is such a joy. Everyone gets such a great kick out of it. I can only imagine that these folks would enjoy it too, and I'd support it.
Through you, Mayor, so they essentially, they fly below the radar is some of their training, and you'll see them drop down to just a couple feet over the lake, and then they pop back up over the tree line. It's actually pretty amazing to see it happen. I've been up in Kenice Lake working, and I've seen two of them do it right back to back. So it is quite the sight. I was a little surprised that we got an ask for this, just because of my course of living up here. I've seen it, you know, maybe 3 or 4 dozen times. So I'm just surprised that they were looking for some support to it, but maybe it helps them create the flight plan to come over. I'm not too sure, but I think it's great that we could support it.
So if I could ask for a mover and a seconder then to provide a letter of support to Councillor Richards, Councillor Short-Reed.
Moved by Councillor Richards, seconded by Councillor Short-Reed. Be it resolved, Council receives a request from Pat Hayter, Cam Bucko, Vice President, requesting a letter of no objection for flyover event at Algonquin Highlands for Camp Bucko during the week of August 16th to the 21st, 2026, and the council supports and has no objection to the flyover event.
All in favor? And if at all possible, if we could provide a letter, you know, via electronic letter fairly quickly, given the timing. Next up is your Public Works Activity Report for June.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. There's just a couple points that I'd like to bring to council's attention, and that was the we hosted just a very small summer fly-in. The main one that we wanted to do got canceled due to the weather, so they hosted just a small fly-in, and that was very successful for them. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend, but I heard that it went really, really well, so that was excellent to hear. And then the last item I just wanted to bring up as well is the ditching projects that we work on this year. We were directed a little bit towards focusing our efforts this year on Dawson Road. So we went over there and started our ditching operations for this year, and we were able to complete majority of the ditching on the backside of Dawson Road. It looks really excellent. So a lot of the water can get away from the edge of the road. So I just wanted to bring that up because I know that that was brought forward by constituents. So those two things were completed this year, or sorry, in the past in June. So just wanted to touch on that.
Thank you for that. And yeah, with respect to the small fly-in that was held, kudos to the committee members. It really was, you know, for a small event, quite successful, and we were able to recover some of the costs that we had and some of the costs that we had associated with what we were originally going to do. So it was successful from every aspect. So thank you. Any questions on the report? Could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive said report? Deputy Mayor Dayu, Councillor Short-Reed.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dayu, second by Councillor Short-Reed. Be it resolved, council receives Public Works Report PW 2526 regarding June monthly activities for information.
All in favor? That's carried. Next is a rather unique and exciting opportunity for us, and that's a donation of an aircraft by Mr. Holman's estate.
Yes, thank you, through you, Mayor. Yeah, this is a great opportunity, if it works out for us, to have a static display of a Tudor jet put at the airport. I think this would be a great opportunity for us. And what I'm proposing here is that there are a lot of moving parts to it before I think council should be able to approve whether or not this can happen. So what I'm proposing here is that we get the committee, the airport committee involved in this and see if we can narrow down really what it's going to take to have that jet brought to us and set up and the maintenance of it and see what that looks like. And then come back to council with a report on what that looks like, going forward. And then we can make another decision from there on if it's a feasible option for us.
Questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Dayu?
Yeah, it is exciting. Do you know yet, or do you have any indication of expectations of longevity? Things do deteriorate, and I see that you're already thinking about a maintenance budget, but sometimes heritage features like this has an expectation of like an in perpetuity maintenance or a standard of care. And I know everyone's intention would be to keep it at the highest degree possible, but are they giving any sense of those sorts of guardrails or not yet?
Through you, Mayor, not yet. And that's what I would like to flesh out, utilizing the committee members, is because I do believe these are very sensitive in nature. So I can only go back and look at what happened with the plane that's in Halliburton. I remember when they had to repaint it. So that's the only maintenance that I can remember of that one. So before we are able to move forward, I'd like to see what that looks like to answer those questions of yours. I think that's very important for us.
Well, and the committee members have got a lot of experience with it, aircraft maintenance, and I look forward to seeing what the comments and recommendations are. Any other questions or comments? Could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive this report and approve the recommendation that it go forward to the committee? Councillor Richards, Councillor Short-Reed.
Moved by Councillor Richards, second by Councillor Short-Reed. Be it resolved, Council receives Public Works Report PW 2826 static aircraft donation for information and directs the airport committee lead the information gathering process, and that the committee provides this information in a coordinated format to support the preparation of a comprehensive staff report to council.
All in favor? That's carried. The next report is with respect to the development of the corner lot of Airport Road and Green Lake Road.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, it was requested that I come back to council to see if we could sever off a section of this. The original plan was to sell off majority of it, removing the access from Stanhope Airport Road to the runway. So I went back and spoke with our interim planner, and we were able to determine that there was enough room on the property to sever it that would allow it to be meet the needs for zoning to change over to M1 if that's the case. And there's lots of room there for us to do that. So it turns the property, it would be severed down to a 2.4 acre section. And that's what I've listed here on the picture that you can see. And it does still leave us access to the old Quonset hut and the little roadway there from Stanhope Airport Road to the airport.
Yeah, this sketch shows something that's, it's much more in line with what I had originally envisioned, and I appreciate the, the work that you've done on this. Questions or comments? Hearing none, could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive the report and authorize moving forward with required actions to sever the parcel? Deputy Mayor Dayu and Councillor Richards.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dayu, second by Councillor Richards. Be it resolved, Council receives Public Works Report Airport Development Corner Lot Update for information, and the Council directs staff to proceed with the process to sever this portion and add it to the list of properties to be sold. And the Council directs costs associated with the severance be funded from the Airport Development Reserve.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. The next item on the list is the hangar roof repair and an update on where we stand with that.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. This is a bit of a big project. So we had an engineering firm go back out and take measurements of the buildings, look at the blueprints, look at the original drawings, the specifications of the building itself to ensure that adding on the MUM system, the metal over metal system, the existing structure would allow that extra weight and the collateral loads that were going to be imposed on it. So That investigation was complete, and it was found that the metal over metal roof was an option that could be used here. The metal over metal roof certainly is a better option than a full roof removal, as it doesn't require the current tenants to be removed while the roof is being replaced. The roof can be completely replaced without impact to the tenants as far as removing items from the hangar. There may be some impact as far as, you know, a lift sitting in front of their door for an hour or something like that. Like there is going to be some communication between us and the tenants to make sure that they're aware of what's happening and construction crews and things of that nature, but they won't be required to remove anything or do any kind of safety inside their hangar to ensure nothing falls on their equipment, which is, I think, a huge benefit. And another benefit over to that is that we will not see any kind of impact of loss of revenue for having to have a hangar tenant be taken out of their hangar for any length of time. So they'll still have full access to their location. In addition to that, I mean, we talk about the metal over metal system. I did put some key features into it versus the standard roof that's currently there. So we're looking at increasing the gauge of steel, which is why we're here kind of in the first place, and then going through the process. So at this time, we still have the estimated guess of around 210,000 per hangar. So we're in the upwards of $1 million to replace the roofs. Now, in saying that, it all depends on when we tender it. If we tender this year, if we tender next year, and with the Buy Ontario that is just out now, we have to go through the motions of that. So I would caution council that the 210 is just a number to get you thinking. It could be more, it could be less. It will depend on the tendering. So from that, through you, Mayor, I would just like to say that, you know, the next steps would be to, if council so chooses, is to move forward in the tendering process. And as the report shows, I would like to utilize the engineering company that we used, Jewel Engineering. We've had great success and good relationship with them on this project so far. So I would like to utilize them for the tendering process and project management.
Thank you. I'm really pleased to see that we can proceed with the roof over roof option. I'm hoping that through the tendering process, that because we don't have to remove a roof and then put another roof on, that we, you know, may come in a little bit under what the estimates were. I know that the jury's out on that. And I look forward to, you know, finally being able to proceed with this. I must say I'm a little bit disappointed in the time it's take to come through all of this. And that, I mean, that's no reflection on your work, but it's taken a long time. And this particular project had a huge implications to our budgeting process. You know, when you look at the discussion we had yesterday at the county, looking at all of the municipalities' financial positions, there was an impact there that we could see. And so I'm really hoping that we, if there's any possibility that we can proceed with this project this year, that we do so. But you know, I know that it's like, let's get out our crystal ball on that particular item. But comments or questions from council? Seeing Deputy Mayor Dayu.
Thanks a lot, Adam. I do have a couple questions. One has to do with the you know, the use of Jewel. I appreciate that we've done that in the past. I do wonder though, and perhaps this is a question more for Angie, but as we also have a project manager in-house, what is the benefit or the analysis behind outsourcing that process rather than using our in-house resources?
Yes, through you, Mayor. With a very large project like this, I do recommend using an outside firm, and the reason for that is because with such a large project, you get into using the standardized CCDC contract and all of the legalities that go along with. And our project manager will certainly work alongside them, but it is important, in my opinion, to have a professional engineer, which Jewel is, you know, to manage the project.
Okay.
And you had a second question?
I do. You know, I'm concerned that this total is rather high. I was rather hoping that when the quotes came back for the roof on, or the metal on metal, that we would have a rather significant discount from what had been originally anticipated, and I don't see that. And I got to admit, I'm really struggling with that. Like it is a huge amount of money for a series of buildings that we own. They're assets that we maintain because they are municipal assets, but they're not directly related to public service. They're things that we maintain so that we can lease them out at a fairly minimal cost to individual members of the public. And I'm, I'm reflecting on the costs moving ahead that we saw in the governance report yesterday at county, and it just feels like an awful lot amount of money. I'm uncomfortable with it. I'm really uncomfortable with the totals, and I appreciate, it's what you got. But I know we've got a conversation coming up in the agenda about corporate sponsorship. I know we've got some information forthcoming in the coming months about what we might be able to get for the lots that we hope to sell off. I don't know if you have an update, if you've had any of that come back yet, but I think I would feel more comfortable if we sort of saw a financial business case for this, to make sure that we can really afford this. It's an awful lot of money in a time when our tax rate is bound to go up according to the governance study unless considerable changes are made. And I'm worried. I'm just worried. So I
We
guess
have-
I'm
We
looking.
have got that message from you. If I might say that this is something that we struggled with during the budget process. We accepted the possible cost of this project. At this point in time, it is only an estimate. As Adam has reported, we will be looking for an RFP, and that will give us the true costs where you might want to, depending on what comes back to us, repeat those concerns, but it is something that we have budgeted for already, agreed to and approved the project. And, I hear your concerns. It's a big project, but something that I see, something that we need to move forward with. You had some comments, I think, that you wanted to make in response or after the comments that our CAO made. So go ahead.
Thank you, through your mayor. No, our CAO did a great job of answering that question. And I was just going to elaborate a little bit, just the technical experience that comes with dual engineering on a project like this far exceeds staff's technical experience on it. So, as long as if we use them for our project management and we work alongside with them, there is a huge benefit to that. Not only us learning that, but also we can provide our side and our information and our experience on the building and the airport, as well as Jules' professional experience and knowledge when it comes to questions of the contractor or things of that nature. So it's really important that we do have somebody in the spot to really help us steer us in the right track and make sure that they're watching over us. I think that's really important to us on a project like this. And as an example, we use the similar process when we built the Public Works garage, and they were very helpful, very, very helpful. In addition to that, I want to say thank you for your question on the costing. I think it's very important. The question you're bringing up and your concerns are very important, especially I think to everyone here and myself. This is a big project, and this is a lot of money for a roof project. It's crazy to think that you're going to spend $1 million on a roof, roofs, I should say. That also includes the the investigation into the humidity issue that's also happening inside the hangars. So the roof replacement itself will be around $1 million, we're hoping. And then we have the extra 0.5 in there for to deal with the humidity that's happening inside the buildings, which is causing problems. So we're hopeful that the project will be under budget than what we have, but again, that will only come out when we tender it. Certainly if council wants some kind of plan brought back, we certainly can do that as we move forward, or in addition to us moving forward, if council so chooses. We have that new metrics that our treasurer has put together to help us with something like that. And we are coming back next month with a return on investment report for Hangar D. So, it's something that we can add to it. If you would like us to do that, we certainly can. And I think that it's important to understand that the hangars help offset the operating costs at the airport. So if a thought process comes along that we would want to not replace the hangars or not fix them or not have them, that's a huge conversation because they do offset a lot of the majority of the operational costs too. So I think it's a big conversation if that's the route you wanted to go.
Councillor Shortreed.
I'm just curious, did Jewel give you any indication of the lifespan of the hangars once this is done? Like, will it still have a long life, even if there's humidity problems?
Through you, Mayor. So the humidity issue that we're seeing down there isn't the result of what's happening now with the roof. So that's a completely separate issue. But yes, they're proposing anywhere between 40 to 50 years for the roof. Now, in saying that, Hangar D, I don't, Angie, you could tell me actually how old Hangar D is. But I gotta say, it's probably sitting up there in the 40-year mark too, if not maybe a little bit more. But again, we can also look at the roof at the Public Works garage, the old Public Works garage. That was a 40-year roof too. And I mean, it was in okay shape, and that's part of our maintenance program too, making sure that we're maintaining them.
Councillor Shortreed.
I meant life of the whole building though. Like,
Oh, I'm sorry.
is the building gonna last 20 years or 50 years? Like, to spend $1 million on a building that's gonna only have 20 years life is.
Again, through you, Mayor, I would have to ask that question, but I don't think it's unreasonable to think that we wouldn't get more than 50 years out of it. Like, essentially, it's steel. It shouldn't deteriorate. I say that very carefully because the roofs have deteriorated, but those buildings haven't shown any sign of any issues as of right now.
Councillor Richards.
I'm just curious if we have an approximate valuation of what those buildings are worth in comparison to what we're now going to have to spend on the roofs. And because I think we're all uncomfortable with it, even though we've agreed to it, and we've essentially agreed to it because they are our municipal assets and our duty to therefore protect our municipal assets. It's not like we want to spend this money on them. I think we can all think of better ways to spend that money. But, in consideration, we're hoping to sell off lots surrounding the airport for future development commercially. That'll help with taxation, that'll help, to pay for that airport's existence and its maintenance, and try to make it a property that is not a burden to our taxpayers. But I am curious if we do have any valuation to what those buildings are worth. I think we looked at the market evaluation of them from a rental income perspective. So what if we sold them off as units instead of, and I know that there would probably be a lot of implications to that because they're still on our land. But what if we sold them off versus renting them? And how would that maybe lessen the burden of them on our taxpayers?
Through you, Mayor, I don't say this very often, but that's a really great question. Only because I really don't know. That is a very time-consuming endeavor to get a price on the building. I don't think would be overly difficult. I mean, I'm sure reach out to an appraisal company and they would be able to come to and appraise it. But what that looks like, and I would ask Angie for our CAO for her thoughts on what that would look like, because it's on our land. There are buildings. I would imagine there's a pile of legal information there that they would have to essentially lease or buy I don't even.
It's extremely complicated process.
Yeah, I mean,
And would change the entire operation. Of the
great
airport as
question.
it stands. I don't know that it would be too challenging to get an evaluation on the buildings
No.
themselves at this point in time. But to move in that direction as to sale of those buildings that they're, kind of right in the middle of airport operations, and would change I know there are different methodologies of development on airports and, sale versus rental. But the fact that they're right in the middle of the airport really complicates things.
Through you, Mayor, the location of them is certainly important. It is in the middle of the airport, but there is public access to them. So being in the middle, I don't think is a huge factor that would change anything. But in saying that, yeah, that's that one's going to take a little bit.
Future considerations. Go ahead. Let's just try and stay within the scope of the report that we have here and the decision we need to make. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
of course.
I
But I
meant that for everyone, not
Mhm.
just for yourself.
I value the spirit of that though. I like it's about thinking a little bit more outside of the box before we dive in. And so I value your idea that maybe we run this project through those new metrics that the treasurer has compiled and just see where it lands. Because indeed, if the cost of the building at the end is going to be more than the value of the building, especially over the expected lifespan, I think we just need to keep thinking quite creatively about how to maintain assets while making it feasible financially for the taxpayer. So I like the idea of seeing what the treasurer comes back with in terms of a financial breakdown and support that.
Any other comments or questions at this time? So could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive the report and move forward with the recommended actions at this time? Councillor Shortreed?
Could we hear the resolution first?
Yeah, the recommendation is, or the resolution is actually in the report, but of course,
Be it resolved, the council receives Public Works Report PW 3026 hangar roof repair update for information, and council concurs. And council directs staff to retain the services of Jewel Engineering to provide tendering support and project management services at a cost of $55,000 and to be funded from the Airport Development Reserve. And council directs staff to engage a mechanical engineer through Jewel Engineering to assess the hangars to reduce the humidity concerns.
all in favor? That's carried.
And just for clarity, do you want me to bring back something at the next meeting that talks about the return on investment for this project?
I think that we need to have another discussion about this as an agenda item. I wouldn't suggest at this point in time that we're asking for a specific report. But I think one of my concerns is that we're getting into a lame duck timeframe. So, it's kind of a challenging thing, but I'm not sure whether we should be asking for that at this time. Madam CIO.
Through you, Mayor, I think we do need clarity on that, just because this resolution that council is passing is approving going ahead. So we just want to make sure that's what council is wishing us to do, and that we don't need a further review.
Well, I think this motion, we passed this motion. And I think what has been asking for is something separate as far as investigating on the long term, the metrics and value of the building and life a span of the building and how that, fits into the long-term airport plan. If that's something that council wishes to have worked on at this point in time, we would have to have I would think we would need a separate resolution for that. Councillor Richards.
I think if even not for the next council meeting, but for the incoming council, that it's something that's very important to happen, right off the hop, because the airport is a significant issue for our taxpayers, for our municipality to move forward.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And I do think that that's something that needs to be brought forward maybe during the projects and priorities for the next council, or, one of the early discussions. I would like to add too that the airport, although it is a large expense and a large part of our budget, it is also an opportunity for economic growth, some diversification in residential versus commercial industrial of tax revenue. It really is truly the only opportunity for that kind of growth. So, there needs to be a balance in how we approach it. Deputy Mayor Dayu?
Thanks. I'm not sure. I'm just looking at the note. I'm not sure if we've got a mover and a seconder yet. And if that's the case, I wonder if I could ask for a recorded vote, please.
I thought we had a mover and a seconder in Councillor Shortreed and Richards. And, okay. Well, how did we come to have a vote on it then? Can we have a mover and a seconder to put the motion on the floor? Councillor Shortreed, Councillor Richards. I believe that we've heard the motion. I believe that Deputy Mayor Dayo asked for a recorded vote.
Deputy Mayor Dayu, yay or nay?
Nay.
Councillor Richards, yay or nay?
Yay.
Councillor Shortreed, yay or nay?
Yay.
And Mayor Danielson, yay or nay?
Yay. That's carried. Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is the tender results for sand supply.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor. So this was a tender that we do every year for our winter sand operations. And unfortunately, this year it was just a little bit over the budget that we had set aside during our budget deliberation, and just looking for approval to move forward with the lowest bid.
Any comments, questions, or concerns about this item? Hearing none, could I have a mover and a seconder to receive the report and proceed with the tendering? Councillors Shortreed and Deputy Mayor Dayu.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, second by Deputy Mayor Dayu. Be it resolved, Council receives Public Works Report PW 3126, sand tender results for information, and Council awards the project to Francis Thomas Contracting in the amount of $77,760 plus applicable tax, and for the additional funds required be funded from the aggregate reserve.
All in favor? That's carried. Finally, your public or your monthly activity report for July. Any highlights that you'd like to bring to us?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Yes, I would like to, and actually I didn't have it on here, but it is relative to this report. Is Deputy Mayor brought up a question about the appraisal and the lots and things of that nature. So I just wanted to provide a quick update on that I did receive back an update on the appraisal. So that's great to have that back. Now, I did speak with the county yesterday, and we are working together on an RFP that's going to go out very shortly for looking for a real estate agent or agencies to help us sell those lots or list them and get them advertised and get them out there. So I just wanted to bring that up just as another step forward with the development of those properties and what we can do. So I think that's really a good step forward for that project. In addition, I wanted to highlight that staff did some joint training this past month with other departments within the townships, within the township, and we took care of our first aid training. We did our traffic control training, and our load securement training was completed for staff in various departments. So that was a good combination of combined training. In addition, I wanted to also mention that we also completed the fuel tank movement up at the Kawagama shop that was identified last year as an issue that needed to be addressed. And we were able to move those tanks efficiently in the month of June and to meet all codes and regulation. So that was a good project to be completed. And then the last project is that the asphalt was completed. The asphalt apron was completed on the backside of the new Public Works garage this past month as well. So a couple big projects that were completed. So I just wanted to bring those to your attention.
Thank you, sir. Good to see some of this work moving forward. I'm just out of curiosity. I'm wondering how the county, how they become involved in the in the sale or assessment and sale of properties that belong to Algonquin Highlands.
Through you, Mayor, I don't know. I didn't involve the county with the appraisal of them, only because we had the appraisal completed on those properties back a couple of years ago. So I was able to go back directly to that same appraiser and basically take their draft and have them come up and take a look at the properties and then update it. So that was an efficient way for us to get that done. As far as the sale of the property, I'm not too sure.
Possibly I misunderstood you, but I thought I heard you say you were working with the county with respect to.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mayor. So we're just working with the county to create the RFP that we'll be sending out to real estate agent or agents so that we can utilize them. Originally, we were just going to kind of reach out to a handful of them, but there's too many moving parts to ensure that we do it properly and get a good estimate on, you know, what they're going to provide us. So we'll be bringing those results back after that closes.
Okay, thanks so much for that clarification. And I think, so did we, could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive and approve their report? Deputy Mayor Dayu, Councillor Richards.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dayu, seconded by Councillor Richards. Be it resolved, Council receives Public Works Report PW 2926 regarding July monthly activities for information.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
Are you
Thank you,
going to
Council.
be able to join us at the airport committee
Yep,
meeting?
I will be there. I will be there tonight or this
Oh, okay.
afternoon, I should say.
Thanks very much. Next on the agenda are fire services.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Good morning, Chief. First up, on your list of items is the two-tiered fire response agreement with the Township of Lake Bays.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor. Previously, Deputy Chief Shelley brought through a proposal for a two-department response with 4 townships in Alberton County, which was passed and has been quite successful. To ensure that we have the same level of service to the north of our area, we've negotiated or spoke with Lake Bays. They're very positive towards it, to the same identical agreement with them. What it does do is ensures we have adequate amount of certified firefighters to enter into the to a building for structure fires. And both municipalities, for us, Dorset and Oxen Lake, then along with Lake Bays and Dwight and that, they have the same issues we do, especially in the daytime. We're limited staff. So if we all work together, we'll have a great response going forward. It was recommended by the Office of the Fire Marshal to do agreements like this with our neighboring municipalities and also part of our fire master plan. So I think it'd be very effective. It has showed effective in the south with the fire we had down here on 118. We had men in there right behind us, giving us more manpower and more water. So I truly support the venture.
Thank you very much for the report, and I agree. It's important that we have equal cooperative agreements with Lake Bays, and you know that gives us greater protection for the northern part of the community. Questions, concerns? Could I have a mover and a seconder then to move forward to receive the report and move forward with the agreement? Deputy Mayor Dayu, Councillor Richards.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dayu, second by Councillor Richards. Be it resolved, Council receives report FD 1426 regarding the 2 fire department response agreement with the Township of Lake Bays for information, and Council directs the bylaw be tabled to adopt the 2 department response agreement with the Township of Lake Bays.
All in favor? That's carried. Next is the fire protection grant.
Yes, through you, Mayor. This is the 3rd year of a 3-year grant process that the provincial government's brought out for the protection of our firefighters directly related to cancers. Each year, between 50 and 60 firefighters pass away from the results of cancers from the duty of being a firefighter, along with the other secondary cancers. So we've been successful the past 2 years and very fortunate we've been able to get a large capacity bunker gear washer. In turn, last year we got the large capacity dryer. And as a result of that, we were able to put the washer that we existed from before is up in Oxen Lake for one-offs, but we're able to do the capacity. This year, we're asking the provincial government for funding of $47,000. In that will be 8 sets of bunker gear, because it's the goal of the provincial government is for every firefighter that does structural firefighting to have 2 sets of bunker gear. So that'll work towards that. I've also asked for our Nomex coveralls. Right now, they're all various ages, all various suppliers. We're all random. And they will approve that to have a standardized new Nomex coveralls for all our firefighters. So that'll be right across the board. They'll all get the new Nomex coveralls. And then after that, there's what they call fire wipes, and they're just like the wet ones and things like that. But they're made specifically for removing carcinogens off your skin after fire calls. So we're looking for a large supply of that for our firefighters that will put a box of them at each station. So as soon as they get to a fire, if they have soot or anything on their skin, they can wipe it off. And the final request in the grant is for supplies, and that would be like for the cleaning agents that would go in our bunker gear washers, and also for our decon kit that we have on our truck, it would be the solution would go into that. So there's no long-term cost to this grant. It'll actually reduce existing costs for when we buy these other supplies. So it's just looking for the support of council to proceed with having this grant request.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns about this? Okay, could I have a mover and a seconder then to proceed? Councillor Short Reed and Deputy Mayor Dayu.
By Councillor Short Reed, seconded by Deputy Mayor Dayu. Be it resolved, Council receives Fire Services Report FD 1526 regarding a funding opportunity under the Ministry of Solicitor General Fire Protection Grant for information, and Council hereby authorize staff to submit an application to the Ministry of the Solicitor General Fire Protection Grant in the amount of $47,437 plus applicable taxes for cancer prevention supplies and personal protective equipment as outlined in the notary report. And finally, the council authorizes the CAO and or treasurer to sign the necessary documents associated with the grant.
All in favor? That's carried. Next is your monthly activity report.
Yes, through you, Mayor. It's been a busy summer, and we've had a lot of calls that are directly related to hydro lines and stuff like that, and it's keeping our volunteers busy in that, and they are training hard. We've been very progressive in our training within the county. Just recently, Algonquin Highlands hosted an NFPA 1021 course, which is an officer certification course, which all 4 townships participated in. And that's just continue to do our specialized certifications, which is important that we meet all the standards of OFM, which we have. And there's certain timelines, and we're well on. We have completed the one that was required for the end of July. We met all the requirements of the OFM for our firefighters. So that's nice to see. But it has been a busy summer.
Which is a challenging thing for us all.
Definitely.
It's great to see that we're taking the lead, when it comes to some certain training promotion and activity. I would ask, as I have often done, how we're making out with ongoing recruitment and as well with response to calls.
At this point, in the last one, we took a new firefighter on Oxton Lake, and he's working out well. We have 2 people in the process of going through the proper paperwork and the medicals and that to come into Dorset. It is a challenge. I think that's common across the fire service throughout Ontario, is to get volunteers. Response-wise, very consistent with our numbers, and depending on what the call is, like we had a car accident on Sunday, and we had 13 people show up for it, which is great. And then, like in Dorset, we average 3 people to medical, but 3's one more than what you get if you get an ambulance. So I think we're giving the proper response that's required for numbers wise. But we're always looking, and if we can get more people. But the hard part is we don't have the demographics drawing people for employment here, and it's hard for the whole township, and not just us. I know. Minden's in the same boat. They're down 6 firefighters now from their roster, and they just can't find people that are interested, unfortunately.
Well, as you say, that's one of the challenges associated with the demographics and the aging population, a little bit of change in approach to volunteerism, and it's a challenge on an ongoing basis.
And there is a positive and a negative. Like our training, when I first came here, the training level was already here for recruit training was amazing. And I attribute that to Chief Kavanaugh and what he's set up here. But in the 6 years now, we've had 8 firefighters that got trained so well from our recruit training program. They're now full-time firefighters. So when they become full-time firefighters, we're losing them. And so that we do have advantage when they're here, but we don't have the consistency. And that's because we're highly respected throughout the province. And that's nice to see. And it's good career opportunities, but we don't have the firefighters when they leave, unfortunately.
What's the situation with the double hatters? Is there still a concern about that, about full-time firefighters from the south coming in
No,
and assisting us?
no, it's gone by the wayside. It's unfortunate it ever did happen.
Mhm.
Two hatters, they provide a definite resource to the volunteers, but as I said, the volunteer department's what's supplying the full-time departments. So as a firefighter, I'm a firm believer you never forget your roots. So if you're the volunteer firefighter and you get on full-time, don't forget where you came from. Keep serving your community.
Thank you for
And
that.
some do.
Any questions on this particular report? Could I then have a mover and a seconder to approve it? Receive and approve. Deputy Mayor Dayu, Councillor Shortreed.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dayu, second by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved, Council receives Fire Service Report FD 1626 regarding monthly activities for the month of July for information.
All in favor? That's carried. Finally, your report on surplusing outdated personnel equipment.
Yes, through you, Mayor. One of the issues that we've always had to meet is the requirement in NFPA is to replace bunker gear after 10 years. Once after 10 years, it cannot be used for firefighting purposes. So that applies right across Canada and the United States, but there's a company called Without Borders Canada, and we can donate to that company and they'll take it down to various underprivileged countries and make use of it. So it's just to advise, we do have sets now, they're outdated. And instead of throwing them dump, I recommend we contact them and they in turn let them be used at the places they can be used. I think it's a good venture. And the other 3 townships are going to piggyback with us if we proceed.
Questions or comments? Could I then have a mover and a seconder to receive the report and proceed as recommended? Councillor Richards, Councillor Shortreed.
Moved by Councillor Richards, second by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved, Council receives Fire Services Report FD 1726 regarding Algonquin Highlands Fire Services surplus personal protective equipment for information.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Enjoy your afternoon.
And you? I'm just kind of wondering whether we should proceed with the next report, because I think there might be a considerable amount of discussion about it, but where are we with the?
Find out.
Pardon me? I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Yeah, I think we'll do that. So we'll now take a break until, let's say, 1:45. I just want to give the report that you've got next on the agenda the full time that it deserves.
It may be later than 1 o'clock because she's not back yet, or later than 1 or 2.
Okay. Welcome back to the open session. The next item on the agenda under finance business is a report on corporate naming rights and sponsorships. Good afternoon, Madam Treasurer.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Good afternoon. So to this report, Michelle and I are here to talk to you about we're here to seek council's support in a new initiative for Algonquin Highlands, although not new for the province. There have been proven success stories out of a policy like this, and so we're bringing it to council to see if it is of interest that council would like us to investigate. So what we're suggesting is policy development for corporate sponsorship and naming rights program. So it's an opportunity to generate non-tax revenue while maintaining public ownership control of our municipal assets. Municipalities across Ontario have partnered with local businesses to support parks, recreation facilities, community spaces, and other amenities through sponsorship and naming rights programs. In my report, I did put in a few samples of projects that were completed within a recent vicinity of ours. These partnerships not only provide financial support for the municipal projects, but also give businesses the opportunity to participate with their commitment to the communities that they serve. So with the policy, it would establish eligibility criteria, approval process, sponsorship terms, and appropriate recognition standards. A well-designed program would allow us to recognize community-minded businesses in a respectful and consistent manner while preserving the integrity of our public spaces. As we continue to navigate increasingly challenged budget cycles, we need to explore every opportunity we can to reduce pressure on the municipal levy, and this is one way we can do it. It won't solve all of our financial challenges, however, would be a good tool in the toolbox, and I think it's worthwhile to explore. Ultimately, the initiative is about finding new ways that we can support our community without the reliance on the tax levy. Today, we're asking council to support the principle of the program for us to then work with the performance sponsorship group to develop a policy to bring back for council to consider and then allow us to seek those opportunities, as many as we can find. If we're able to develop the policy, that would be the best step in the right direction for us to set the standards and set the terms, and then we would bring all of that back for council to consider. That's a very high level review of my report. I'll pause there and take any questions that council may have.
I will say that this is quite an exciting opportunity, and it is a revenue generating opportunity for us. I have actually heard from several members of different councils who have attended sessions at the conferences and thought that it was a great idea. I really look forward to hearing back and having a look at a draft policy. The only concern or comment that I might have is how the public might view us, getting into this sort of arrangement and having corporate names on what the public may deem as their facilities. So that's kind of the only thing that's been kind of rumbling around in my head about this. But I look forward to hearing what members of council have got to say, and I certainly love the idea of outside revenues. Before I get to questions, I just one thing. Did you want to comment?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to your point there about the public perception, putting a name or a corporate sponsorship on a building would not restrict or change anything on how the building's used. It would merely, more or less, it's a marketing benefit to the company, to the community members, depending on the group or business. But it's more about marketing and sponsorship of the spaces, the infrastructure, the events, more than it is about changing how the space is used. That would be enforced in the policy.
I guess it's just, to me, was the impression that a member of the public could get to see a corporate name on one of our buildings, and I love the idea of sort of local corporations having kind of first right of refusal, first opportunity. Councillor Richards, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I really do think it's a great policy that we should have because, so much of our world is built upon individuals who created something for their community. And we need to bring back that concept of philanthropy through our communities, whether it's corporate or private. Um, there are individuals within our communities that have more to give than others that are being extracted through taxation. And so it's it helps, especially when it comes to capital infrastructure, um, to have that funding coming from somewhere other than tax dollars, where we're so constrained, and it affects, lower income people much harder than the higher income earners. And maybe our higher income earners want to see all these beautiful buildings and cultural facilities, but the lower income ones just can't afford it. And so we're caught in that tug of war, between what the community could actually have if we encourage that philanthropy like we did in the past. So many of our buildings were built by the community collectively coming together versus taxation dollars. And I strongly support us moving in that direction. And I think our community will too, if it helps offset taxes.
Other comments or questions? Councillor Shortreed.
And I think if you look at like big arenas like Scotia Plaza or whatever it's called, look at the advertising on the boards. You don't see people complaining about the advertisement there. And look at how much people privately donate to hospitals. Like there's money people want to do things with, and we're just giving them the opportunity to do it.
Deputy Mayor Diane.
Yeah, I agree with all that's been said. I think I'd maybe draw a line in the sand in the policy, or have the conversation about a line in the sand if it got to things like the Jennifer Dayu Stanhope Museum, like some of these larger corporate like things, like an airport is like almost like a corporate kind of structure, and a public works garage. I get it, but the Stanhope Community Center, Jennifer Dayu kitchen, I'm not sure if people would enjoy that so much. So it's one of those things, I suppose, to explore as we get into the weeds a little bit more. Yeah, I assume you've spoken with performance sponsorship group already, and they feel fairly confident about what's possible for Algonquin Highlands, because there is that cost implication upfront, and you I take it feel quite comfortable that we would be able to offset that and go beyond. That's not a risk.
So if I may, through you, Mayor. So I actually worked, when I first heard about this, I did meet Judy at the AMCTO conference, and we had a really good discussion. The initial costs, of course, I was just so excited about the opportunity that I called the CIO, and the second phone call was to the Public Works Manager. So he has some opportunities in his budget this year that we could utilize some of his budget to cover the costs. And then essentially the cost with the performance group is they come in and create the marketing packages. So they put the value on a name on a building. They put a value on the name of a room, spot on a fence, any of those things. And then we get to work, and we start putting out expressions of interest, and it may not be recovered initially in the first year, but I do think that we have a lot of opportunities of where we're located and the amenities that we have, that we can cover that in many years to come. The examples that I've put in the report, they had very big corporate sponsorships, right down to very small corporate sponsorships. So in one of the community rooms, like a local bakery wanted their name on the room. And so they have contributed a sponsorship for the next 10 years to have their name on the room. And it's more of a marketing package versus for the business. It's a marketing package with intangible benefits of, how many people will visit this area, how many people drive by that area, and all of those packages get developed for our assets. So that's the cost that we would incur up front. But like I mentioned, I did work with the Public Works Manager, and we're very confident we have some space for that this year.
I actually heard quite a bit of excitement coming from him about this
Great.
opportunity. Councillor Richards.
Do you think this could also lead to, encouragement through a lot of our organizations for cultural fundraising through them? One thing that pops to mind would be like the Halls Hawk Lake Association doing some local fundraising to go towards the log chute rebuilding. So this would create a mechanism for them to do that, and then the donation being made, commemorating the Halls Hawks Lake Association to the log chute or something similar thereof.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does open a lot of opportunities on how we think about projects moving forward. And is this something that we could consider to roll in? Like initially, I was still in the deputy clerk role. My mind went to cemetery. There's a lot of opportunity and things that we could not so much expand because we only have so much space in the cemetery, but some of the things that we need to upgrade, or some of the expansions like a columbarium, or like they're really limitless, I think. But we'll put it, in a policy and get started.
Well, and in fact, one of our committees has actually kind of sort of taken that step forward with small sponsorships available at the airport without benefit of a policy. Which, this is a good thing, that can, fold into this, and I see there's some good opportunities. So any other comments or questions? Well, could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive the report and authorize the sole sourcing of utilizing performance sponsorship? Councillors Short-Reed and Richards.
By Councillor Short-Reed, second by Councillor Richards. Be it resolved, Council receives report TT 1326, corporate sponsorship and naming rights program and policy development for information, and Council approves the development of corporate sponsorship and naming rights program and corporate sponsorship and naming rights policy to establish a consistent and transparent framework for pursuing corporate sponsorship and naming right opportunities for municipal assets. And the Council approves the single source procurement of Performance Sponsorship Group and authorizes the mayor and clerk to execute an agreement with Performance Sponsorship Group, at the approximate cost of $12,500 in 2026 and $12,500 in 2027 to support the development and implementation of the corporate sponsorship and naming rights program policy to the satisfaction of the Chief Administrative Officer.
All in favor? That's carried. And thank you to you both for your initiative and work on this idea. So next is a report on strategic initiatives that our new treasurer is bringing forward to us for consideration. So go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Danielson. So the report that's before council today, since becoming the treasurer for the past couple months, I've been continuously looking, reviewing processes, understanding them, and looking for efficiencies and how we can better data in to get better data out. So this report before council is, rather than bringing individual changes as they arise, I just wanted to provide council with an overview of where the finance department is heading and the things that we are hoping to change as we change financial software over the next couple fiscal years. These are the kind of the bigger initiatives that we're going to strive to improve. So I guess I have the reports before council. I wasn't planning to go through every one, but I'm happy to if council would like to do that. But I guess I just wanted to emphasize that these initiatives don't necessarily have a strict tie to an implementation plan. These are things that council identified even through the budget process, things that I hope that we can do when we implement our new financial software over the next 2 years, and just things with working with the counterparts on the financial software, hoping to do a lot of streamlining, more reporting. We're currently working with Serva Consulting and revamping some of the reports that will be coming to council, more visual, just a lot more data to be able to be readily available for council to help make some really great informed decisions moving forward. So I think that's it. I'll pause here if council has any questions, but again, I'm happy to go through each initiative to explain a little bit more, or if council has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Absolutely excellent report. I think, I could say on behalf of us all that we're really, really looking forward to seeing, better and different kinds of reporting that we've received in the past, the division between operating and capital funding and two separate budgets there. That seems to be something of import for a lot of municipalities right now. I know we've been hearing the same thing at the county level. The only comment, and as I say, I'm really, really pleased with all of the recommendations you're making. The only comment that I would make would be with respect to the development and presentation of the budget. And you're saying that, that you wouldn't implement that until we were looking at to the 2028 budget. I would like to see us move without necessarily following specifically the timelines that you've outlined here, at least moving the process a little bit forward as much as we can.
Yeah.
So that we're approving our budget a little bit earlier than we have for the last couple of years, because I think we're just a little bit behind, what is optimum. And I'm always or often concerned about pre-authorizing purchases before we have our budget in place. And so, that would be my only comment, and it doesn't impact, how you're proposing going forward. Comments or questions on what's being proposed? Go ahead.
If I may, Mayor Danielson, yeah, the change in the timeline, it was the intention to start that immediately, because we've heard that from council in the past couple budget cycles. However, it's challenging in an election year because, with the inaugural meeting, we typically, right after inaugural, we're right into projects and priorities. So it was about timing this year, but I think that's why, and that's why I suggested the following year, because we'll have a year with the new council, they'll be familiar with the process, and then we'll just speed it up. And so that's why the recommendation wasn't start until 2028.
At least if there's, some ability to move just slightly,
Yeah,
for
of
like
course.
baby steps
Yeah.
next year.
Yeah.
Comments, questions? Deputy Mayor Dayu, I can see it coming.
I'm just delighted. I'm delighted that you're in this chair because you've got such a wonderful strategic financial brain and a big picture thinking brain. And you've just outlined some fantastic changes. And in addition to this, I'll be curious to follow along and see how you choose to change what the proposed budget looks like for a future council. Will it be only line by line, or are you going to do different things? Because there are a whole bunch of different ways to approach it. And you're the person to come up with great ways of doing that, especially for a council that could be, considerably new. Yeah, I look forward to watching you thrive. I really do. It's a great report. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Other comments or questions? Could I then have a mover and a seconder to receive the report and authorize moving forward with some of these directions? Councillor Short-Reed and Richards. And again, thanks so much for your work on this. I really see this as moving us forward in a really positive way.
Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Short-Reed, second by Councillor Richards. Be it resolved, council receives report TT 1826 regarding Finance Department strategic initiatives for information, and the council endorses the proposed direction for enhancing financial reporting, budget development, long-term capital planning, and financial management practices.
All in favor? That's carried. Next, which I believe you'll be speaking to, is the under administrative business, the use of a gazebo policy.
Yes, so thank you, Mayor Danielson and Council. So yeah, I'm just going to bring back the before you is the revised use of gazebo policy. There's a few things in the clerk's department that we wanted to wrap up, and this was one of them before I wrap it in a bow and hand it to the new deputy clerk. So this was one of the last pending items on my list. And so this is just, I attached to the report was the report I brought back in January, but the use of the gazebo, I took it back, had some conversations with a couple of funeral directors, the Bereavement Authority of Ontario, And ultimately, council at the time gave us direction, see if we can make it happen of using the gazebo as bereavement space if needed. And ultimately, yes, we can. And so I revised the policy accordingly. Couple of suggestions that came out of my discussions with some funeral directors, and I didn't just stick to local ones because we have I had noticed over the past couple of years we've had outside funeral directors, so I collected their input as well. And ultimately, I mean, one had made a recommendation of putting like a poured pad underneath the gazebo to ensure flat surfaces for any caskets. The beer stand is what they call it. And so I did put that financial consideration so that just so council's aware that if we wished to do that, while not mandatory, it was kind of a request if that could happen. In order, our project manager had got a quote. It's $6,000 to $8,000 to pour a pad underneath there, and we don't necessarily have to do that now in order to proceed with it, but it just minimizes risk. And the risks that they highlighted were valid. So, so I wanted to council to have that as a consideration moving forward, and maybe for future planning, that's something that we can consider. So before the policy before council today has been revamped to use the policy required to be reserved. So it would be kind of a step in the process as we do now. So when a family or funeral home contacts us for an interment booking, it just becomes another question we ask, or if they say we'd like to use the gazebo. Our staff go out and prepare the site typically a day before. And so what we would consider is potentially hang a sign. We'd have some kind of notice for the public at the site to say on this day at this time, the building will be used. So we're giving the public enough time that if they don't want to be disturbed and when they come to use the space, we're not in an awkward space of having people leave or family show up. We can reserve it. So looks like potentially like a chain link with a sign to say that it's happening. What I have recommended for council, if council's supportive, is there be a user fee for that. So it would become part of the process of an open and close. If you want us to do this, no problem. We'll go do the sign, we'll take the time, we'll do all those pieces. So if somebody would like to book the gazebo, then it would be to the fees and charges, and it just becomes part of the step in the interment process. So I have updated the policy to reflect that. We will, in my discussion with the BAO, we will need to clarify language. So when we revised the bylaw for the natural burial section, a direct burial for us in the interpretation of our bylaw meant from the hearse to the graveside. And so we need to clarify that. BAO said you would need to provide clarification to that language. And now because we're not mandating a direct burial, you could go from hearse to gazebo if you booked it, and then from the hearse to the graveside. The policy still does allow for the public works manager in consultation with the clerk, if it's February, January, we can't get a clear, safe path, then that would all be incorporated into the bylaw. So it's very important in the Bereavement Authority of Ontario's eyes that people know when they purchase a lot exactly what they can do. That language is very clear to the BAO. So that stuff has to be very clear in the bylaw. So what I've recommended in the report for council's consideration and support is a bylaw revision has to be done. It's going to take, I mean, I think it's 12 to 16 weeks is what the BAO says for bylaw revision. The new deputy clerk gets started on that, and we do that over the winter, and we incorporate the use of the gazebo fee as a January 1st, 2027 implementation to be used starting in 2027. That should give us a good enough window to be able to revise the bylaw. And if it's not, when we do our fees and charges, we'll just, as we've indicated in our fees and charges, when that service becomes available. Then, so if we don't get our bylaw back from the BAO till February, come February after they've approved it and council's done the final approval, we can then use that charge. So I'll pause there. If council has any questions, happy to answer them.
Questions? I'm really, really happy to see this, coming forward, and I know that the Green Burial Society will be very happy to see this as well. So looking for questions. Deputy Mayor Dayu?
So in the wintertime then, just from a maintenance perspective, would this mean that we would be maintaining the inside, we'd be clearing the inside of the gazebo for potential use? Because I'm sure there'd be some snow swept in and clear that pathway so that that's always available in the wintertime?
If I may. I think it will depend because we're not going to regularly plow it. What we use is the snow blower. And so it will really just depend on how much snow we have. So the gazebo won't have like every single day access, no matter the snowstorm or ice storm. It'll just be a matter if we can remove it in the least damaging way, because I don't know if we necessarily, when we laid everything out, plan to put the snow blow, like the big tractor, right through that first section. So we do have small ones, so it'll just be a matter of how much snow we're dealing with, ice, those types of things. But inside the gazebo, because there is a bit of an overhang, there shouldn't be anything inside. It'll just be the pathway to the gazebo. And I think for the most part, we should be okay. But I say that with the caveat of the weather is sometimes not always in our favor, but unpredictable, I will say. So, yeah.
Okay, and if there are no other questions, could I have a mover and a seconder to receive the report, to authorize or accept or adopt the policy and authorize staff to move forward on the development of changes to the bylaw? Councillor Richards, Deputy Mayor Dayu.
Moved by Councillor Richards, seconded by Deputy Mayor Dayu. Be resolved, Council receives report TT 1826 regarding the revised use of cemetery gazebo policy for St. Stephen's Cemetery, and further council approves the use of the cemetery gazebo policy and directs staff to bring forward at a future meeting of council a bylaw to adopt the policy concurrently with the proposed amendments to the cemetery bylaw. And finally, council directs staff to proceed with the necessary amendments to the cemetery bylaw in consultation with the Bereavement Authority of Ontario for future council consideration.
All in favor? That's carried. Thanks so much.
Councillor.
As to being able to wrap this all up in a very tight bow, I'm thinking it might be a loose bow.
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you.
So the next item on the agenda was to be spoken to by Councillor Barry, but as she's unavailable today, just to say that she did receive a correspondence from Mr. Goring about the donation of a painting. As you've seen, the painting itself. It is my understanding that we would, in order to give a tax receipt, we would have to have the painting assessed, which would be standard. It is a lovely painting. I think it would be beautiful displayed in the Dorset Rec Center. Anyway, would look for comments on that. I think it's a lovely donation, and if that's the process that we have to go through, so be it. Okay, so then could I have a mover and a seconder that we agreed to pursue the offer of a donation through having the painting appraised, and I guess we would have a future discussion to concur on its location. Moved by Councillor Shortreed, seconded by Deputy Mayor Dayu.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, seconded by Deputy Mayor Dayu. Be it resolved, council accepts with thanks a donation of artwork from Peter Goring, and that council directs staff to proceed with arranging for an appraisal of the artwork to determine fair market value and to issue an official tax receipt in accordance with CRA requirements.
All in favor? That's carried. Finally, under the administrative portion of the agenda, given the retirement of our CAO, we have gone through a rather stringent process to recruit a new CAO. And I'm pleased to be able to say that we will, under the bylaw section, have a bylaw presented to approve the appointment of Mr. John Conley. I think we were all very impressed with his performance during the interview process and look forward to him joining the team. And I can even say that I believe our CAO, Angie Bird, will be happy to see that she's leaving the organization in good hands. So we'll see that under the bylaw section. So next up, it's planning.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Mayor Danielson, members of Algonquin Highlands Council. I'll introduce myself again. I was here this morning, but good afternoon. My name's Kim Bishop. I'm a senior planner with the County of Haliburton, and I have been for the last, I believe, 4 weeks, being your acting township planner, following Mr. O'Callahan's vacancy. I'm pleased to sort of be working with your building bylaw clerk's department, everybody to keep the planning department afloat while the township has been searching out for a new planner. I'm understanding that somebody new will be starting in September, and so we're happy to have a sort of comfortable crossover to hand those files over. So we have before you June and July planning monthly report. Just the usual statistics. We did not have committee of adjustment meetings in June or July due to Mr. O'Callahan's vacancy. We will be holding one next week that will hopefully catch up on a number of applications that we can have tidied up for the next planner to look at the new ones coming in fresh. So happy to take any questions if council has any.
Questions or comments? I would, just as a matter of information with respect to the Committee of Adjustment meeting at the end of next week, I may not be available for that meeting, but I'm hoping that you will have a quorum.
I believe we do.
Right on, okay. Okay, could I have a mover and a seconder to receive the report? Councilors Short-Reed and Richards.
Moved by Councillor Short-Reed, second by Councillor Richards. Be it resolved, Council receives planning report PL 6326 regarding June and July monthly activities for information.
All in favor? That's carried. Next, we have a proposed road allowance closing by Alcott, or sorry, Colcott, on Little Hawk Lake, sorry.
That's okay. So thank you very much, Mayor Danielson. We have a request for a joint application to close the original shore road allowance in front, pardon me, of 1296 Little Hawk South Shore, a water access property on Little Hawk Lake, as well as a request to close the original road allowance that's directly to the east of that property. So the original road allowance request, or original shore road allowance request is fairly straightforward. But this is a road allowance that leads to water. So there are some policy considerations that the council may want to have sort of in making that decision there. So as I'm sure council is aware, the township official plan and the county official plan generally discourage the closure of original allowances for road that lead to water, typically in scenarios where they could in the future potentially be public access points. So the township's policy for the disposition of land, other than shore road allowances, bylaw 2013-71, sort of explicitly says council shall not consider these road allowances that lead to water except for a handful of exemptions. So those exemptions, there's two main ones. So one is where the property is located on an island. And the second is where there's kind of another adequate access to the water, along that road allowance. So this is a bit of a funny one because while this is not an island, this is a water access only property. So this is not a scenario where you're going to take the public road in and sort of, walk down the unopened road allowance and use the access to the water. You'd have to get there by boat anyway to get on the lake. And then the abutting owner to the east is the Crown. There's a lot of Crown land sort of around that area. So that's a consideration that the council may want to make when sort of considering that policy. The second is that there is another location along this road allowance that leads to water. So there's a sketch sort of marked up on a GIS plan that's been provided for council. It's got a lot of different colors on it just to confuse everyone. But there's sort of a dotted area, a line that sort of shows where that original road allowance leads down to another water opening. I would not consider that to be a great water opening location. It is generally a wetland in that area, so it probably wouldn't be sort of sufficient for alternative access in that scenario. So
It's really the decision of council when we look at things like road allowances leading to water. One can certainly acknowledge and respect that this is a scenario where there is a lot of access over Crown land here to access the lake if somebody wants to in that scenario, and that otherwise this road allowance would probably never be utilized as a sort of maintained public access or for public roadway purposes, which are kind of the two standard uses under the Municipal Act for public highways. To put a little complication into that, the upland owner here, so 12,976, there is a bend in their lot line as it approaches the lake, and there is a piece of crown land located between the original allowance for road and their easterly property line. Both the shore road policy and the original road allowance disposition policy typically require that we are transferring to the direct abutting upland owner. And in this scenario, the Crown is an intervening owner. So normally you would see this typically very common with shore road closures where you may have an area of unpatented land between the property owner and the municipal shore road allowance. Typically, the direction in those scenarios is that you have to go talk to the Crown, patent that land, so then you are the owner that's abutting all of that municipal property, and then council's in a position to dispose of that to you. So that leaves what staff consider to be kind of two options for council to consider. If they're open to closing and conveying this original allowance for road because of those sort of unique considerations in that it's probably not an appropriate public access point, or it's certainly probably not ever going to be a road. We would recommend that we go back to the applicants and let them know that the direction would be that they contact the Crown to purchase that pie-shaped piece of land first. So then when the township sells that land outlined in red on the sketch, they would be, we're not going to have any intervening ownership in between. You're going to have sort of straightforward ownership there. Alternatively, if council is not interested in disposing of the original allowance for road, they could deny that portion of the application and advise the applicants to just proceed with their original shore road allowance purchase on that basis. So clear as mud. Happy to answer any questions should council have any.
Questions, comments?
I do feel satisfied that as a water access only property, it is tantamount to being an island. I'm very comfortable with that. The bit about the sliver in between with the Crown land, although the very first rule I learned on my very first day of council 8 years ago was there is no precedent in planning. I think there is always a psychological precedent in planning. And if we were to sell that little section off, someone else might think, oh, well, but there's a whole kilometer of shore road allowance next to me, which is abutting Crown land. I'd like to buy that. And they've made this exception for them. And it, I think it's just simpler to ask that they seek to take over that portion of Crown land so that we abide by our own principles and not start off like a psychological precedent that doesn't even exist in law.
Other comments and questions? Councillor Richards.
I'm wondering, if the intent of purchasing is because they're planning to build or have to take care of maybe their septic is on outside their lot line or something. So trying to go through the Crown to patent the land is a lengthy process. Are we holding up something happening here?
So through the mayor to Councillor Richards, the application, when you submit an application, you do give a reason for your purchase. Their reason was just privacy, essentially. I did note when I reviewed this, we haven't provided a survey in advance. We don't require a survey in advance. That's only required once council is approved in principle. But we did note that it appears that the dwelling itself is more substantively, if not wholly, located on the original shore road allowance. Now, not necessarily on the original allowance for road or anything like that. You know, so I don't believe, I haven't seen a building permit application for anything in here where this has been flagged. I've been doing our zoning reviews for the last month, so I haven't seen anything on that basis. Taking the applicants at their word, it appears that it's not specifically for development. It's just that they would like to own the unopened road allowance because it's right next to them. But there would be certainly a tangible benefit for these folks to own their original shore road allowance because the building is located on it. And sort of through to Councillor Richards, I mean, they could proceed with an application to purchase the original shore road allowance without doing that additional work, because, you know, the straight line projection of their lot lines falls within our policy requirements. It was really this sort of odd circumstance of original road allowance and crown that led staff to pull this from the consent agenda.
Any other comments or questions? Yeah, I mean, for me, you know, I have some similar concerns about, you know, that Deputy Mayor Dayu has raised. I would prefer for us to approve them proceeding with the acquisition of the shore road allowance and leaving the issue of the road allowance itself out of consideration. So, like, I'm sorry, but I'm sort of trying to figure out, I think that's option one. Or I'm just was looking at the wording and trying to figure out which
Yeah,
word.
so through to the mayor. So the recommendation is to acknowledge receipt of the report and to approve the disposition of the shore road allowance in principle. So if they wanted to, full steam ahead, and that we would be deferring consideration of the application for the original road allowance until such a time as they had approached the Crown to patent that land. So we wouldn't be holding them up on the OSRA if they decide they just want to go that way. But if they do want to pursue the road allowance, staff would follow up and provide them the information on how they contact the Ministry of Natural Resources to start that process. So that's option one.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to hear. Okay, so could I have a mover and a seconder to move forward with it in that regard? Councillor Richards, Deputy Mayor Dayu. Option one. Correct?
Moved by Councillor Richards, seconded by Deputy Mayor Dayu. Be it resolved, Council receives planning report PL 6826 regarding proposed road allowance closing located between lots 25 and 26, concession 11, geographic township of Stanhope, and proposed shore road allowance closing fronting property located at part of lot 25, concession 11, geographic township of Stanhope, Little Hawk Lake. The council approves in principle application OSRA 1226 made to stop up closing of the shoreline road allowance fronting property located at part of lot 25, concession 11, geographic township of Stanhope, Little Hawk Lake, and further regard to application RA 226 to purchase the unopened road allowance between lots 25 and 26, concession 11, geographic township of Stanhope. Council selects option one to defer the application until such time as the applicant has acquired the intervening land located between the east lot line and the applicant's land and the west of the unopened road allowance.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And given that we have a new planner that's going to be starting, I would just like to say thank you so much for your help in this interim time between, you know, losing Sean and getting a new planner in place. We really appreciate your help. And I'm sure that there'll probably be continuing communications between the township and the county. Thanks,
Thank you
Ken.
very much, Mayor Danielson. It's been a pleasure working with the staff here at Algonquin Highlands. They're wonderful. So I appreciate the opportunity.
You just like the office. It's a corner
The
office.
gorgeous office. It's true. Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to external board meetings. Anything from the community partnership or the health hub?
There won't be any till the fall.
Okay, thanks. Anything on Upper Trent Water Management, Muskoka Watershed?
No, nothing at this time.
Don't believe there's anything coming forward on the, from the detachment board. We're trying to set dates for our next meeting in efforts of trying to accommodate having the detachment commander present at that meeting. She's had alternates attending, you know, for the last couple of meetings. So we're just trying to, you know, bring everybody together. So I think we may be having a meeting on September the 15th, so there'll be more information coming after that. Anything from the library board?
No, we are not meeting as frequently in the summer.
Anything specific from community safety and well-being?
Same answer, not meeting as frequently.
I would say that, you know, it is really, really quite extraordinary to see the work that the Community Safety and Wellbeing Committee are doing. You know, the schedule of events that they have is just out of sight. And, you know, the work that they're doing with other community groups and organizations is fabulous. And it's, you know, it's really a positive move in the right direction. I suspect nothing on the Muskoka River watershed. As far as anything coming from county council, I mean, you've all been directly involved in and or have seen the governance study and the recommendations, had an opportunity to listen to the meeting that happened yesterday, or at least 3 of us were at that meeting. That is obviously going to be an ongoing process. One of the things that resulted from the report being given was the acknowledgement of a need for a little bit deeper dive into some of the options. So really, you know, members of council and the future council can see, you know, what are the financial implications associated with each one of these choices. So there has been an additional funding of $100,000 dedicated to doing that additional financial work. It will be done by the consultant, as opposed to being, you know, laid onto staff's desk, although I know that there will be some involvement with passage of information from each of our finance departments, and we really appreciate that work being done on our behalf. I don't think there's anything else from county council to bring forward. That's been the main focus. Nothing under general business. Are there any notices of motion? Were there any items that were pulled from correspondence? So could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive and approve the correspondence summary listing? Deputy Mayor Dayu, Councillor Richards.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dayu, second by Councillor Richards. Be it resolved, council receives the August 12th, 2026 correspondence listing for information.
All in favor? That's carried. Could I then have a mover and a seconder to approve the bylaws that are listed? Councillor Reid and Richards.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, second by Councillor Richards. Be it resolved, the following bylaws be received, read a first time, considered read a second and third time, and finally passed with the corporate seal affixed. 2026-76 to authorize a 2 fire department response agreement with the Township of Lake of Bays. 2026-70 to stop up closing of a part of the original shore road allowance in front of lot 32, concession 5, geographic Township of Stanhope. 2026-77 to stop up closing of a part of the abutting property owner, part of the original road allowance in front of Parkland Lot 10, concession 4, geographic Township of Stanhope. 2026-78 to stop closing of the abutting property owners, part of the original shore road allowance in front of Lot 20, concession 12, geographic Township of Shoreburn. 2026-79 to provide for the revised setting of salaries and wages for 2026, and 2026-80 to appoint a chief administrative officer, deputy clerk for the Township of Algonquin Highlands.
All in favor? That's carried. With respect to the bylaw to appoint the new chief administrative officer, I just would ask that our thanks and appreciation be passed on to our HR coordinator, Dawn Mumford-Gay, for all the work that she's done during the recruitment process and handling the details of the actual appointment itself. So our thanks to her for that work. And I believe, subject to that particular bylaw, we might be hearing some words from our CAO.
Thank you, Mayor. And I do have words in front of me because I want to make sure I capture everything that I've been thinking about. And I'm afraid if I don't read it, then I won't do that. So thank you. And if I may, I'll just take a moment. So sitting here today, it is really hard to wrap my mind around the fact that this is my final address to council. After 34 years, incredible years in local government, the time has come for me to step into retirement. While I am excited for the next chapter, leaving Algonquin Highlands and this community is deeply bittersweet. Serving as your Chief Administrative Officer for the past 16 years has been the greatest honor of my professional journey. As I prepare to step down, I look back at my career with immense gratitude, pride, and deep respect for what this township has provided me. To Council, thank you for your leadership, your trust, and your partnership. Over more than 3 decades, I have seen councils change, priorities shift, and the community grow. Through every term, my goal was to provide steady professional guidance to help shape our municipality. We have navigated complex challenges, balanced competing priorities, and made difficult choices for the benefit of our community. Thank you for allowing me to execute your strategic vision with professionalism and integrity. To our staff, over 34 years, local government has evolved dramatically, but one thing has remained constant: your unwavering dedication. You are the heartbeat of this community. I have watched this team tackle emergencies, build vital infrastructure, and serve our residents with unmatched pride. You have supported me, challenged me, and made me a better leader. Residents often only see the finished road, the open park, or the smoothly run program. I've had the privilege of seeing the relentless dedication, overtime, problem solving, and that all happens behind the scenes. From our frontline workers to our senior leadership team, your resilience and passion inspire me. Thank you for your hard work, your innovative ideas, and most of all, your support. In my final reflection, 34 years ago, I entered municipal service wanting to make a difference. As I look around the room and across our community, I see the tangible results of our collective efforts. A career in local government is not always easy, but it is deeply rewarding because our work directly impacts people's lives. I leave knowing that Algonquin Highlands is in exceptionally capable hands. Thank you for the memories, the shared victories, and a lifetime of unforgettable experiences. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I've worked with you for 16 years. And without hesitation, I can acknowledge that we truly appreciate the work you've done on our behalf. And I really look forward to being able to have an opportunity to celebrate that work with you. And I just, can't say any more because it'll be too hard for both of us. From all of us, from the heart, thank you. Having said that, I would like to have a mover and a seconder for the confirmatory bylaw. Moved by Councillor Shortreed, seconded by Deputy Mayor Dayu.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, second by Deputy Mayor Dayu. Be it resolved that bylaw 2026-81, being a bylaw to confirm proceeding of the council held during its regular meeting on August 13th, 2026, be received and read a first time, considered read a second and third time, and finally passed with the corporate seal affixed.
All in favor? That's carried. Finally, a motion to adjourn. Councillor Shortreed, Councillor Richards.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, second by Councillor Richards. Be it resolved the meeting is hereby adjourned at 1:51 p.m.
All in favor? That's carried.